Ladies and gentlemen, welcome one and all back to the SwiftX Digital Motorsports. We're here with the British Grand Prix here today, round 7 of the championship here. And of course, I say we come to the not always sunny Britain, but certainly an iconic circuit steeped in history. Say you've got 3.66 miles of iconic tarmac. You've got two DRS zones. Got, of course, the iconic Magazine of Beckett's Cops, just to name a few. I say all of these corners, say 18 corners, a little bit of undulation to boot, but certainly a track to remember, and one that we're going to certainly be enjoying today. So, of course, I will be one of your main commentators as well. It's as always a pleasure to be here, and we are just waiting to get ourselves into Q1 now. Of course, being joined by today, as I say, I'm not sure if he is here quite yet, but we have, of course, Mr. Dean Biggles. Love to have him here. Great personality to have in the commentary box. Now, Q1 is going to be a bit of an interesting one, though, it has to be said, because we have a lot of drivers who are not going to be making it to the session today. Of course, we have our classic full grid of, I say, a lot of our key protagonists. We have our championship leader, Emir. We have people, so like Noah Ilkorpi, of course, our qualifying champion, as one would say, Mr. Saturday, if you will. But you've also got to say a few protagonists and a few midfielders missing. One that comes to mind, Luke Frankland, is another one that we have been watching with eager eyes. And unfortunately, one that is not being here. But speaking of commentary box and things to ponder on, sounds like my co-commentator has arrived. Oh, stop it, you. Right.
About this track over the many years, everything. Being a World War II, an older World War II airfield and a smart one these days. But obviously it's built on a plateau. Runways as we go around the outside of what is the perimeter track. First ever Formula 1 race was here in 1950. But guys, it started before that. I had that actually for a little bit of an intro, but then I got stuck in the... I couldn't remember the combination to the casting box door again.
You know, they've got to change it. It's security. It's a standard procedure. But regardless, we're here now. We're here where it matters. And Q1, it might be a little bit different. Might be just a little bit different because, of course, with our driver absences, we've got some players, unfortunately, not able to make it to league. Q1, would it be fair to say that Q1's going to be a little bit quieter?
Yes, absolutely. I don't know if you guys can hear me out there. Have my microphone turned on? Hopefully that would be the case, but yeah, for sure, because it appears to be about 15 or so drivers out there at the moment, and you only need 15 to go through. However, a DNF without putting a time on the clock, so you're not guaranteed can not get you between Q2. You still have to put a lap time in, but you could probably do it on inters and be okay. Actually, I'm surprised right now too, Ben, that drivers aren't doing kind of the tradition that used to do last year and stuff like that. To go out in their first lap on inters and put some track rubber down.
Yes, that kind of gets into a little bit of the meta game, though, when you think about it, is that, of course, the inters, much softer compound as I deal with wetter surfaces, wetter tracks. But byproduct of that is, because it's so much harder to get the temperature into the tyres, you have all more the reason to go on a softer compound, lay some rubber down. Track evolution, especially on a track like this, a lot of fast sections. Track evolution is just as important, if not more important, than raw pace itself.
Absolutely, track evolution. So you're going to expect it, as well as the classic weather, which is what occurs as well. A lot of drivers I'm actually seeing are spinning at the moment. Red Bull's going around a bit of a spinzaroos, and Korsgaard, unfortunately, out there, not on the grid because kind of sprained his wrist, and you kind of need your wrists to drive. So very unfortunate, my friend. I hope you get well soon because we want to see you back on the grid.
Yeah, hopefully things improve for him. Looks like that is a Mercedes stranded out on a track. or was it say, looked very stationary, maybe just prepping to get themselves out on the front again. We are, say, going to temporarily have the fallback measure in place. Say, just there maybe a quick interruption with the graphics as we sort out a little bit of a technical issue on our end, but doesn't mean the racing is going to go anywhere. It gives us a chance to look at some of the times as well, because we have say Noah and Will Casson up at the top right now. The Aston Martin's leading, but with only 15 drivers, they don't exactly need to be pushing all that hard.
But you know they do. That's the thing. These are drivers.
Yeah, remember, it is
They
a pride.
always do that.
It's about pride at that point. Not to mention, some of them just want to get laps in.
That's true. It's a practice session as much as it is a qualifying session. On top of it, yes, the track evolves, as you mentioned. So I do believe you could probably give me a driver to go on board with. I guess if Liam's going on an outlap at the moment. I was speaking to Liam before, Liam Markham, of course. He wanted to test my knowledge of Silverstone and just spun out right out of the corner. That's the corner club there, Liam, if you know I was knowing all the corner names. And that means that you're going to have to abandon this lap. Right on cue, my friend. That was your first and only opportunity for me to cast you going around Silverstone and give you all the corner names. So that's it. I'm not going to do it now. Blowing your chances.
Yeah, what should I say? Get right to the point. The opportunity, and it just, say, slipped out your fingers. On board with our championship leader right now. Going to see what kind of times that they are looking to be setting. Of course, they say they are, well, it goes without saying, leading the championship right now, has a pretty strong margin, pretty strong opponents as well. But that being said, we talked about some of the absences from today's race. Looks like, at least for now, one of those absences is going to be their core opponent in the championship. Oh no, saying that though, they've just come up P2 on the standings board, but it's a familiar sight. That Mercedes of Jasper Ten up in second place, certainly putting the pressure on Amir here.
It needs to put the pressure on Amir in the championship, otherwise Amir's going to run away with it. And just I was down there in the Ferrari garage talking to Amir, pronounced correctly, his name, and he was telling me, Biggles, this is my track. Look at the reason why. It's mine. I own this. There's no way I'm not leaving Silverstone this weekend without the man on pole, without the man the fastest lap, and without the man with the race win. So that's how confident this driver is.
That's true.
And see that, it's an example by half a second. This is once again not needed to get anybody to do it. You need a lap time, I believe. Well, I don't think you need a lap time to get through qualifying. That's an interesting one. Do you? To set lap time?
Yeah,
at
so
least.
To remember, it's Q1. It's down to 15 places, but we're down to 15 places anyway. So effectively, these drivers can treat it as a practice session and maybe a little bit of pre-gaming for some of their opponents. I know Amir, just because it's Q1, there's no stakes with the driver count, doesn't mean by any stretch that they are pulling their punches. They're just coming in half a second, as you say. Pretty insane gap. But you talk about, say, Emir having their home track, really, in terms of their pace, where it's all going to be, where the win is going to be for them. But what's more of a statement to being a championship threat than beating your rival on their so-and-so home turf?
Mm-hmm. Very true. I'd say what you got to beat at this point. You've got to beat Emar here, because he's just so confident he's going to win this track. He's like, this is my track. It's one of those tracks on the grid that I'm better at than most people. This is his track. He's called out, so this is where Jasper has to do it. I think he didn't. That's right. He even told us, didn't he, Ben? I think down there, and I'm quite sure you were there up in the casting box, but he did say that if Jasper beats him in this track, he's gonna retire his racing gloves.
And that's quite the statement to make, which is really, and that sort of opens up a bigger question for me, is at what point does confidence become bravado? And hear me out here, because drivers have every right to be confident in their ability. Heck, we embrace it. It's fun. It's challenging. It creates some good rivalries, some real drive to get better. But at what point do you have to put the line down? You have to say, okay, this is the point where maybe you're getting a bit too in over your head, to say, not to say that Amir is over their head, because clearly with the half-second gap to the next player in the field, I know it's only Q1, but still, even in these early stages, that is quite the mission statement to make. But you have to ask yourself, not necessarily in their position, but maybe in others, to say, where is the point where you draw that line?
He's already drawn the line. He's thrown the gauntlet down on that one. So that's exactly it. And this is if you're Jasper, I think, I don't think you need to feel the pressure on that one. You just get it, Jasper Ten Hacking, you just, all right, well, let me deal with it. I'll let him, and then see if he's going to make any mistakes. Because there's weather always at Silverstone, so that can come into play. I don't think there's anything forecasted on a beautiful day of qualifying. But come race day, once again, is Emar confident enough that he could do it if the conditions are just full wet? Is he quick? Because, saying you could be super quick in the dry doesn't mean you're super quick in the wet. What happens if you had a bit of a spin? What happens if there's a car that you have a collision with, somebody that may spin ahead of you if you're overtaking a back marker or something like that? We're presuming, of course, he'll be starting in the top of positions on the qualifying.
One will definitely have to assume.
Anything can happen, right? You can have somebody spin on you and accidentally hit him. It's happened before, hasn't it? We've had Liam has had a bit of a spin in one of the races. I think that was back in Jeddah or something like that. And unfortunately, somebody else was coming around the corner and had destroyed their race. It's just a racing incident.
Yeah, so that's the thing with racing. It's so unpredictable. You don't really know what's going to happen, well, at all. Everyone is, of course, putting in 110%. They're really giving it their all in these drives, especially in something like SwiftX. But you have to remember is that if one person makes a mistake, they can also start a chain reaction. It's like a butterfly effect. If someone's spinning through a very crowded turn one, suddenly you collect, say, another driver on field, and which becomes 2, 4, and before you know it, half the grid is either on their sides, halfway into the gravel traps, or half of their car is into said gravel traps, with the rest of their survival cells stranded somewhere else.
Or it turns into an IndyCar oval pileup.
And at that point, you say red flags, and
everywhere.
Can you realistically expect a race to go on after that point?
True. We do have red flag conditions, of course, here in SwiftX, but do you have to have 5 cars DNF at one accident in order for that to occur? We haven't had that yet, luckily.
Yeah, we come close to it. We have certainly come close to it. We've had quite the pileups. I believe, was it Saudi Arabia? Saudi Arabia comes to mind, but
yes, I believe it was Saudi Arabia on one of those first corners.
But we did come very, very close to it, but not enough to execute the condition. So it is there as an ultimate fail-safe, but not there to be used as a scapegoat. There's a fine line, and of course, it is steward's discretion. If there is clearly a problem, there's a problem that's been indicated, the stewards and race control will, of course, step in as appropriate. So we might be looking at, just at this point, you've got a few drivers practicing. The only drivers left on track right now are the 2 Williams and the 2 Mercedes. And even then, I expect them to pit in too, save the car and resources for Q2.
Save the car and resources, exactly. So you're mentioning about saving your tires, turning things down up a little bit, keeping the performance. I presume that's what you're mentioning.
Yeah.
And another thing, Ben, that I was really, really surprised with, of course, as you're going back to those pileups, mate, is that you would have thought with the, it's easy peasy for somebody to put it in the wall in the castle section in Baku like we had earlier. Believe it or not, nobody did. At least when it was causing an accident, it was causing it during one of the qualifying sessions. Didn't do it for the race, so that could have easily turned into a red flag situation. So we didn't have it. Of course, we have Monaco coming up.
Yeah, so
we've heard from Liam saying he's the Monaco master, the master of Monaco. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, you're finding that everyone has their strengths. Everyone has that one track. And in fact, I would be really interested to hear all the drivers and see what is their one track that they can depend on, that one track that they can rely on to bring a good performance home. So we've had Silverstone, we've got, say, Monaco, the Monaco Master, as you dubbed it so elegantly. But the thing that you got to also look at is when it comes to, say, having track strengths, again, that can breed a little bit of complacency, that can breed a little bit of bravado, and of course that confidence isn't unfounded, but the fine line you've got to draw is to know when you've got an opponent on your tail. And I guess that's the other thing as well, is that with the longer game in some of these drivers, and going back again, say, to Baku, you got to sort of keep your head out of trouble, got to keep your necks out of it, because we saw that everywhere but the castle section, incidents were happening, which I found very curious. So we had nothing as the castle section, as you said, but simultaneously we had some spins just before the castle section. We had turn 1. We had the third sector. A lot of people pushing too hard, putting it in the wall in the Armco, and really everyone is sort of scared. I think it's you don't want to. I don't want to say scared, because that sort of takes them for fools, but there is a level of gravity when you talk about the castle section. There's a level of gravity to it that other corners and other sections of the track just don't quite match.
No, and it's very, well, Monaco Osco has its. So just so the questions out there, of course, where is our special lovely livery that we have? It was working, and I think there was a little issue with it. Ben might be able to sort that out. We've got a little bit of time left of this, essentially, practice session, aka qualifying session, because all these drivers will go through, as long as they don't DNF, as Ryan, as long as he doesn't DNF, then Belgium driver should be able to be okay.
Yeah, so just a brief technical issue, some display issues. So we opted, rather than having, say, any bugged overlays, any misrepresentation, we just had the fallback to the game overlay to make sure that everything that we brought you was accurate in real time.
It's like that scary moment of, let's see, side by side, drivers going side by side through cops, of course. Or even if you're going back to that castle section, which you go side by side through the castle section, if you really want to try it, you have to see it. It is 7.3 meters wide, and Formula 1 cars are 2 meters, so you can have 3 cars through there if you want. Don't think anybody's ever going to try that.
It's far
I'll hang up
too
my
scary.
microphone if I see it. How's that sound?
Yeah.
And just to continue, Ben, real quick, because about 58 seconds left. I'll give you guys out there a suggestion. Let's say, for example, you wanted to attend every single Formula 1 race and you lived in London. With all your airfares, your basic ticket, let's say basic airfares economy, basic grandstand tickets, with some hotels, some food and that, to all 22 races, with most of them fly away, return back home, maybe stay for a week and then go. How much do you think it would cost overall in pounds? There you go. For the whole year. With flying your base from London. As the qualifying session is done for the first part, and they all will go through.
Yeah, so everyone going through. There's not really much to discuss. As I say, of course, we had Emir getting half a second clear, but it is only Q1, so there really isn't much to be said. No one's going away, no one's going home, at least not until Q2 is when the pressure starts to build a little bit, and we will cut back to that in just a second for you all. But really, beyond Emir, what is, would you say, one driver that we should really keep our eyes on heading into qualifying and the race, for that matter?
Jasper, you got to. Try to think about some of the other drivers here. Wilkerson could look pretty solid around here as well, till the Aston Martin home territory.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think off the top of my head that. Yeah. For now, because we'll now get a good indication soon, because this is, the part of qualifying that will matter, because we will lose 5 drivers. So they're not going to kind of just mess around, and not mess around, but, just not put in the absolute die-hard effort that they will need to, because they have to right now get at least a top 10. And we'll see that benchmark set, and Emu's obviously set the benchmark already. Emu. Now I'm calling him Emu.
That's a new one. We have development, folks.
Let's see how many names I can give him by the end of the season. He's fine with it, by the way. I've already confirmed it. So he said, Biggles, you can butcher my name any day. Just don't curse me when I'm driving.
There we go. But to say, we're about to head back into the session here. Say, our graphics are back. The fancy graphics are back, ladies and gentlemen. You'll be happy to know. And here we are. So we have everyone. This is when the pressure actually starts. Of course, everyone's on their outlaps right now, but this is the final point where everyone is actually playing for places.
And I'm glad you got here in time as well, too, for the qualifying, my friend, because I know that you had a little bit of work to do to get here with all the
Quite the
delays
adventure.
and traffic and all that sort of jazz, and you still found a way. So nothing's going to stop Benjamin from getting up to a casting box for a Formula 1 race for SwiftX.
Yeah, it's quite the adventure it was, but honestly, with some of the racing we see on display today, it's definitely worth it. Here we go. So on board with the Red Bull of Cameron Sale right now, and you can see one thing that I've noticed is just how much they push those track limits. Qualifying is its own beast. You've got sausage curbs on some of the apexes to prevent cutting, but even very getting wiggly on the rear coming through. But we saw just how much, especially heading through to the back straight, how much of the grass even they were starting to dip their car into. It's just all about that track limit. It's all about that extensions. But never mind, looks like without quickly putting that thought to rest, as the Red Bull is round.
Yeah, the Red Bull's been struggling a lot with getting some traction. And I think very soon we'll give Liam Markham a second chance, of course, so we can go on board and I can show you, at least from the driver's perspective, of how it's going to feel to drive this Formula 1 machine around this classic track. Soon, of course, because he's just preparing on an outlap. I'll give you one more shot there, Liam. We've got engineers out there in the chat. That's Mike, of course. Hello. He's not just a viewer, he's also an engineer. We do have engineers as well. For sure. Antonio out there, hello. Engineers get our information.
I say, good to see those kind of characters in the chat. So, the armchair engineers, as we call, I say, not necessarily in the race, but more than happy to have their insights on the sidelines to say, E2 Lapalainen coming in with a 127.7. Very nice time from the Haas there, setting the benchmark. We're going to see, of course, that drop down very, very quickly.
We're going to go on board with Liam. On board the T-cam there of Liam. Of course, in the Alfa Romeo is about to start his flying lap down, of course. So Lewis Hamilton straight, swinging it over into Abbey, turn 1. Flick it around farm. Going to slow it down here into the village, turn 3. It's tight. It's very tight in the loop, all the way around. Swing it. It's one of the slowest corners on the calendar. Get on the power down entry, and then you go all the way down the Wellington straight here. A little bit of a breather. Try to get your head up there to get the gears shifted up as much as you possibly can, and then you'll drop it down just a couple through Brooklands. Great acceleration of speed. Sensation drops it down to 4th. Get on the power to Luffield, but not too tricky. The rear end will slip out on you. A little bit of a kink of wood coat. Really nothing there. Down the Formula 2 straight. The Formula 2 pit garages and the GT3s. And, of course, the sensation of speed through Cops. Amazing when this car sticks. Uses almost up to 8th gear. Had to drop it down. And, of course, with all the classic S's here, of course. Best of S's, probably. Beckett's, Mackett's, and then exiting out of Chapel right now. Another straight for you coming up. There's Chapel, my apologies. There's your hanger straight, of course, because this hanger's right there to the right-hand side. Not used anymore. Does have a little bit of traffic up the road there. Will you get a tow? They'll move out of the way. That's Stowe itself, so no tow from Stowe. Short straightaway here, has no name. Vale does. 10-16. This is a great section because something around the club. That's the club right there to the side. It's a double right-hander. Get on the power. The line's right up here straight, and his time will be at 127.9.
So a strong time from the Alfa Romeo. We're going to see everyone coming in, getting their flyers in now. But a good start. So P5, only got room to improve on that at this point to say. But Emir Durekovic coming in, sub 127. I believe that was a 126.9. It's Cameron Sell, first person we focused with, a 128. I'm going to see the times start to fall all into place. So we go on board with Ryan right now on their outlap. Can see what they do. Will Casterton coming in P3, 127.4. Very nicely done from the Aston Martins. Again, both of them now placing very highly. So Noah is coming in and taking the second Aston Martin spot in place of Luke Franklin, who was not able to make the racing today. As it happens, this is league racing. This is how we do. But so it also gives prime opportunity for drivers like Noah to show exactly what they are made of.
And Well, no, we're going to have a bye week soon, I believe, coming up. So that might actually help the injury, wrist injury, for one of our drivers as well. Before Franklin, was it? No, that's not Luke Franklin. I'm getting all over the place. I can't remember who that driver was. Apologies. I should know. It was Korsgaard.
Yeah, so that would be Korsgaard.
Jasper's on a fly right now, mate, and that's the man that's Jasper Ten Hanken wants to bring it here out to Emar, but will he pull all of his bag of tricks out during the second part of qualifying, or will he show his hand the top 10? If he gets there, of course, too.
Well, it looks to be on strong pace, just 2/10 behind the current leader. We remember we have 7.5 minutes to go. Maybe he's feeling out the track a little bit. Didn't fully use that quali time, again, to save that resources where it didn't necessarily matter. A little bit of a wiggle coming out and say heading through, building up the speed, heading into Cops now. Looks to be firmly planted. That Mercedes really ironed out the kinks heading into and coming up to the halfway point of the season. In fact, we do have a bit of a news bulletin announcement to come regarding that, which we will get into when the time is right later today. So be sure to stick around for some important announcements to do with our race calendar. But right now, on board, Tanakan, half a second behind race leader. I'm not sure if they're going to be cracking top spots. Tim Brinker, their teammate, with a 127.4. A good time. Can he match it? Can the Silver Arrows bring P4 and P5, split those Aston Martin formations in two? It's going to be close. Looking on good form, but I'm not sure if they carried quite the speed necessary. They're right at the bottom, yet to set a time. It's going to be enough for P7, however, 127.5, and that's going to put them in a little bit of a safe zone for now.
I think so. 6/10 might very much be okay, judging by the overall times on average. I think Jasper Ten Haken was just waiting for, he's like, I needed a Red Bull side by side through Cops, and then I would have felt more happy there in a Mercedes. I thought the exciting news, of course, to come. Well, I don't know, mate. You're a gambling man or not? Are we heading to Las Vegas? Is that going to be on the calendar?
If only. That's next year. That is next year, though. So that will certainly
Still trying to
be
get my tickets for that one, my friend. So I'll actually be there.
A waiting list the size of the place itself. I'll say the size of the strip. Trust me.
I think they had enough hotels to handle it. See?
Oh, they definitely have the capacity, but it's just how popular it's going to be. Because the strip, iconic. And if there's an F1 event going there, it's going to be
Las Vegas.
It's going to be absolute chaos trying to get a spot in. But I say, on board with the other Alfa Romeo right now, right at the bottom of the sheet, how can we see a time being set from them? They're the last driver to actually do so. Looks on a good pace, just 3.5 tenths behind our current leader. So potentially on board for a realm of the P5s, if current trajectory is to be believed. They're carrying a lot of speed there, looking very smooth, very fast. Looked potentially a little bit shifty coming through the third sector, but otherwise keeping a lid on it and doing exactly what they need to do. It's going to be a 127.4. That's going to be enough for P3 for the Alfa Romeo.
Excellent work. And of course, this British driver at home, so it's going to feel even better for the fans as they cheer him past the straight line finish and all the grandstands. Beyond the ball now is definitely on pressure. As Ryan and Maximum Kloss there, Cameron Searle, Liam's on an outlap there to try to cover it off because he's not in any safe zone. Another should Peter Locke, but he's still sitting in the pit lane, probably waiting for a little bit more of that time to kick away as the track starts to gripping up a little bit more.
So drivers rubbing their down.
Been to this track before as well? Past?
Oh, so haven't had the luxury going there. This will be my first time. But to say we're on board with Cortez, about to see what kind of lap they can do. Currently holding P2, but coming through out of turn one, just a little bit too much on the loud pedal. And just like that, the tail is round in that AlphaTauri. Not a driver name, though, that we usually see on the field. So it's having the opportunity to drive after a lot of the other runners couldn't make today's session. So certainly giving themselves a chance to see what they can do. And if a P2 is anything to be believed, they're definitely delivering.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Antonio Cortez. Brilliant time at the moment. I wonder if Email is a little bit concerned about this newcomer in town and bringing it to our current Drivers' Champion.
It's certainly a lot of strong drivers who are going to be bringing that fight. So gonna hop on board now with Maximilian Kloss. We're going to see just how they're doing. Of course, in the relegation zone right now. 3 minutes to go on the clock. Time is starting to run out for these bottom-end drivers. And we're going to see in that Alpine, what performance can he extract out of it? He needs to find at least 3/10 to just get out of the safe zone, let alone be safe in it. Really, they need to find about half a second before they can call themselves a little bit more secure. But right now, holding it very nicely, keeping a good amount of speed. You can hear just a rumble as they go over the curbs. And these cars, of course, highly strung, very tightly set up, because having to be a lot stiffer on the suspension owing to, say, the 18-inch tires. Don't give you much of a wiggle room there. So looking time-wise, like it's definitely going to be tight. They don't think they have the opportunity to go back out again, so they're going to have to stick out on these lap-old softs. Do they have the ERS to do so, though? Looks like they've conserved their resources for another run, but even then, it's going to be just enough to scrape themselves out of the relegation zone. I don't think that's going to hold, however.
No. We'll see. As the track's going to get pretty busy right now. We had a bunch of drivers. You just come back out, of course, and you see those 3 drivers just exit the pit lane. Those 3 drivers, most of them on the bubble. Liam Markham still sitting in the pit lane currently at the moment. Just waiting. I don't think he's going to have enough time now, so he might very much be happy with out the qualifying session for Q1. But where will he be looking at starting the race? I expect to see some of these drivers now to improve, and I'd probably have to say that seeing a car spun off before, I think that was Josh. No, it wasn't Joshua. Anyway.
And here's the thing, they're right on that edge. So if they headed out, literally right now, they would just make it. But looks like that window's expired. They're not going to be coming out for another run. Liam Markham is going to be out, by the looks of things, in Q2. We're on board with Cameron Sell, going for another run. Liam just coming out of the pits now. Cameron Sell coming P2. A very good run there in the Red Bull. That's a 127.3. They are definitely safe at this point.
Brilliant. Puts more pressure on everybody else now, doesn't it? E2. Pressure. Jasper Ten Hacken, of course, pressure. He's not safe in P9 right now if some of these drivers are dropping these times like this. And that's, yeah, it's going to really hurt his championship hopes. If he doesn't get himself up into that qualifying positions where he needs to be, otherwise he's got more overtakes to do during the race.
It just has even more work to make for himself. So Tanakan heading out there, probably not very confident in his time, and it's not exactly unjustified in doing so. It's just over a 10th between himself and the relegation zone. So he has to get out there, see if he can make anything more of it, maybe even using used softs depending on the resource. But right now we're on board Peter Look, coming in 1/4 of a second behind race leader, but that's round. They're round in the Red Bull, and just like that, any hopes of getting out of Q2 have been thoroughly quashed. That's going to be devastating for him.
He's gutted. But you said maximum risk and maximum reward, of course. You have to push it to the limit. And he pushed it a little bit too far. It will give a bit of breathing space now to perhaps Jasper Ten Hacken, who's in that P9 position. E2 is definitely on the bubble. It's up now whether or not to Ryan. And they are both, Ryan and both Beyond de Boer are right spot on. 27.585 first sector between them both.
They're going to be fighting. This is coming down to the wire. The flag has fell. Ryan Yelty's on the cusp of getting out of Q2. They know how much rides on this run. They've got 10 seconds to basically make it or break it. Last few corners in the Williams, holding it tight, holding it quite nicely. A little bit of a wiggle coming out this penultimate corner. Round the final turn, though, it's going to be P13. It's not going to be enough to get out of Q2's elimination. Jasper Ten Hacken, despite the little-ish scare from them, they're going to be just about safe. Ryan Yelty out in Q2. Unfortunate to see, but everyone gave it an absolute try. So, coming through your final standings and heading into Q3, again, donning the iconic Ferrari yellow now. Mir topping the timesheets, 126.9, only driver to go sub 127. The only driver behind them is, of course, Tenaken, with a 127.1. And then saying goodbye in Q2, we have Eetu Lapalainen, Maximilian Kloss, Ryan Yelty, Peter Luck, and Liam Markham rounding out the bottom of the field. Just 8/10 off the leader. So really, you got a question, how tight is this grid?
Yeah, it's kind of expected that towards the end. I was saying I expected to get down about 8/10. And also Bjorn de Boer got in there as well, mate. The Haas driver just snuck in the last minute there on that final lap of the qualifying session to get the Haas to give another shot there. The shootout for the top 10 right now. Of course, Antonio Cortez did a fantastic job as well, because he retired the session pretty early, happy with that time. So he probably has more pace to come. Well, and this is the place and time he has to prove it right now for the final part of qualifying.
Yeah, it's all coming down to this. And drivers know how much is on the line here. And as we're about to head into Q3, of course, we got to question just how much that confidence from Emir is going to pay off. He made a big mission statement out of saying that, yep, this is his race through and through. Silverstone is my home turf. You'd be a fool to challenge me on these grounds. It's like the sacred ground of the driver. But we're going to see just how far that takes him. He's put a good mission statement out in early stages, but just how long is that going to hold? And how far is he going to take it?
23s? I don't think that's going to happen.
Ah, yes, the Warp Drive from 2018 and 2019. I see we're bringing that style back into fashion.
Are we?
You tell me. You
still
want the
the answers
23s,
back
mate.
to how much money it cost you to go to every F1 GP if you had just regular grandstand tickets and regular economy travel, and including if you are in Europe going from tracks to tracks or airports, you'd actually be using public transport. Talked to Ben about this public transport. He loved it today.
Oh, did I?
It's about £18,000. There you go. For a whole year, 22 races. Of course, it costs you more next year, 24. And on top of it, that's just the regular economy. Now, if you wanted to go grandstands and business class and stay in a little fancier hotel, you're up for about £100,000. So if you got some money in your pocket and you love Formula One, there you go. Or you can just stay and enjoy SwiftX with us, and won't cost you a pretty penny.
So it won't cost you a thing to be here. We'd love to have you. So as we head into qualifying, and for the third time, let's take a look at some of the finest drivers that we have seen on the track in the Swift Racing League to date. On board with our championship leader and current quali lead, Emir Drukovic. We want to break down just what makes them so fast on this track. So we take the play-by-play. It's looking strong from them. I think what it comes down to is the mid-corner. In these cars, a lot of the grip is underfloor. And maybe as a result of that, a lot of drivers are trained to take a lot more of the curb than they otherwise need to. I mean, you see him here. Doesn't touch the apex of the curb at all. Really just rides out the car. Only goes on the curb when he absolutely has to. And to extend the radius of their corners. But otherwise, they're staying away from it. Just maximizing that grip. Locking in what they have through the mid-corner. Keeping it very smooth, very progressive. And it's just about carrying that momentum. And I think that's something that they've got absolutely down. Unlike many other drivers on this track. At least to the same extent that they do.
He always comes out first too, you notice, in these sessions. And gets a banker lap in. That confidence boost, and of course if he doesn't validate, he has time. Only got around club to go now. It will be the timesheets replacing Will. He put a good time in. There's a 26 club again, so wow, even quicker than what he did in Q2.
He's setting the timing sheets ablaze. I highly doubt that anyone is going to be able to break that. Just how fast that is. Beyond the Boer, Andreas Cortez both setting times Cameron Sell, everyone is all out in full force trying to get their times in as soon as they can. Ilakorpi coming in 1:27.6, just a second behind the leader. Tanakan a little bit slow out the gate. Tembrinka with a 27.3. 3 drivers left to set a time. AJ Jackson, Joshua Bashford and Jesper Ten Hacken on board with the Mercedes now, of course, the main challenger and rival to our championship leader right now. Battle for the ages. These two really have sort of put on a show for us, and it's a really put that pressure on each other to be the absolute best drivers it can be, and that's the best we can ask for. Really, we're all for encouraging friendly rivalry and pushing each other as drivers to do better. Because that's why we're all here. We're here to see the best of the best racing. And when you're pushing each other and driving each other to move forward, you're going to get just that. Tanakan, 3.5 tenths down, currently on the leader, but still looking on pace for a solid time. Looking to be placing high. You remember, got 6 tenths between P1 and P3. Emir coming into the pits. Tanakan.
And he made a little bit of mistake going into Maggots, I think. And once you get a little bit of a mistake going through that high-speed section there, the S's, it costs the rest of your the other corners. So that's, yeah, he knows he's got more time in the bank there. But for now, a P3 is a P3 provisionally.
And it's a strong P3 to open with, especially if you say that they had a mistake in Maggots, because that cascades, as you say, it does affect that, basically that entire sector. If you're not careful, and this is really where the nuance comes from, the separation of good and great drivers. The good driver pushes the car to its limits, sometimes a little bit too far, but ultimately doesn't get 100% performance. The great driver is one who knows the limits of the car, works to them, but also knows when not to push those track limits. Because in the case of some of these corners, these high-speed sections and the complexes of some of the tracks we've seen prior on the calendar, if you push an apex on one corner, you've jeopardized your approach to the previous one.
And that's the beauty of this track, which is what a lot of the drivers love about it, because you get it right and it's brilliant. You get it wrong, yes, you know, it's compromised the rest of your lap time. You know, you've got modern tracks, of course, with those modern S's, a series of S's. I don't know, Silverstone's just its own kettle of fish.
It really is just its own beast altogether. Because it has such a unique challenge. We see there him getting Joshua getting very friendly with the outside grass. Didn't really need to there. May have dirtied the tires even, but it is really its unique beast of its own. Whether it is the high speed sections, whether it is some of the undulation, some of the altitude changes of the track. Regardless, every single track is on the calendar because it places a unique challenge, a unique test for all of the drivers to truly see who's the best of the best. And we're on board with one of those players now, Joshua Bashford, starting their lap now. Let's see how they do. They're really cutting those apexes in and holding the line very nicely. Doesn't look to see any squirreliness from that Alfa Romeo, looking very, very planted. Say coming through sector times, it's looking like a slight drop. I think even on the first and second sector, usually you expect a particular sector to drop time to someone like the leaders. But one thing we've seen, EMEA, they have time in every sector. So I think it is just in general, rather than a specific complex they're good at. It is just being such in tune with the car, and also having that nuance to know when to push, when not to push, and how much they're extracting from it. Just a testament to the skill on display.
I'm trying to get those times coming through from Joshua Bashford at the moment, just to see how he's going to be comparing to Emar's times overall. Yeah, Emar's just set a monster of a lap, and as you said, that may very well be. He's going to abandon this lap, I think, at the moment anyway. So Joshua Bashford doesn't even have a time on the board just yet. He does have time to try it again.
But there we go. Say another one who's going to challenge for it. A strong contender we've seen. AJ Jackson, 126.9. Brilliantly done from that Williams, giving us a big shake-up in the order as we head into the final few minutes of qualifying. Say, I think, Deke, you have a bit of an affinity for this particular driver, correct?
Which driver again, sorry?
Jackson.
AJ Jackson, yes.
What can you tell us
Absolutely.
about them?
AJ, that I've known for some years now. He's also a controller driver, so he's got to battle that car a little bit more than some luxury drivers that do have wheels, of course, or fancier race rigs.
Yeah, and we don't really talk about all that much the difference between wheel and controller, and this is an argument that I see quite a lot of the time. You'd be surprised how much I see this argument. But one thing you got to remember is wheel, you can hold an angle. Controller takes a lot more effort because all you have in terms of a control surface, if you will, is this tiny little stick that rolls on your thumb. It's not even clasped in. You don't have a sort of fine granular control over it. Whereas with a wheel, it's much bigger. You have a much bigger surface and a much finer level of control over what angles you hold and what inputs you place. If not for pace, then definitely for tire conservation. That's one thing that drivers often overlook. You can extract a lot of pace out of a controller, but tire conservation, not scrubbing the tires through over-rotating on corners, that is where the real nuance and where some drivers really stand apart.
And overtaking side by side is also a little bit more difficult on a controller than the wheel because of those angles that you mentioned. It goes to show you how skillful they are. Because I know a lot of, you probably know, if I know a lot of drivers out there with $30,000 rig setups in their home. Just with all the best load cells and the best wheels and all that jazz, and they're still not as quick as the likes of AJ and other drivers on controllers. So sometimes just having the best tools in town doesn't mean you're going to have the best talent in town. And AJ's actually retired on that, in that P2 position. It made me feel that he's safe enough for now. I think he might be starting on the second row.
I think he put everything into that lap, and it just... He saw the P2, and he said, right, I can't realistically challenge for higher. I'm seeing the pace disparity despite giving it my all. Rather conserve resources and save the car. Here we are on board again with the championship leader. Going one step further is over a 10th down, or I say 10th up even, on his previous. So setting the first sector purple, thing we didn't really expect, or didn't even think we were possible really at that point. So on board now, really carrying a great amount of speed in that Ferrari. Very nicely done there from the Prancing Horse crew. See on board exactly what he's doing here. Some kind of speeds that they're hitting.
Will's also out there as well. Actually, it was a little bit slower. Ema was in the middle sector. Will is probably trying to beat AJ's time. He's very, very close. I'll be interested to see what the Aston Martin can. We know Ema's got... I don't think anyone's going to touch that time Ema has at the moment. Might have been backed off knowing it. And there it is, actually. Did Ema back off? He's gone 26.4 now.
And the thing is, he went over with 1 second to spare. So if he wanted to, if he really wanted to twist the knife, proverbially, then he could have gone again. But obviously, he used all the resources in that lap. Gave it his absolute all. Doesn't look like he's going to be giving it another shot. I think a 126.496 is more than enough for him. Casson coming through, challenging that, breaking into the 126s as well, coming in P2.
Yeah, he steals it away from AJ. I thought he did. Now, Ema could have even gone quicker. I think Ema could have done a 26.3 early fours. The middle sector, he made a little bit of a mistake. What about Jasper at the moment? Jasper Ten Hagen, the second in the championship. 27.38 first sector.
Say
That's
Bashford
not
is
the best.
And then say got Bashford invalidating their time. It looks like put a time on the board, but violated track limit, so is not going to be counted. On board with Ten Hagen now. One of the last few drivers. They have a last chance to set another go. Green first, yellow second. Going to be enough for a move? Not quite. It's going to be an improvement, but not enough to move up the order. And there we go. Emir, the last driver, technically on a run on track. But I think, the scores are as good as sealed. And there we go. Winning qualifying. Emir. What a drive. Let's hope he carries it through to the race.
Yeah, exactly. Joshua Bashford didn't get a time in, unfortunately, but there's your results. If you'd like to go through them, please.
Here we go. So, Emir Djurikovic coming through with a 126.496, brilliantly done from the Ferrari, and really setting a statement to the rest of the field. This is his track and his to dominate alone. Luke Brinker, another Mercedes rather than Ten Aken, coming in just behind a 26.9. Cass also coming in behind, and AJ Jackson split by just under, say, half a tenth between them. Finally, you have Jasper Ten Aken in finally P5, Cameron Searle in P6, Bjorn de Boer in P7, Andres Cortez in the AlphaTauri making a stunning debut, coming all the way to P8 with Noah Ilakorpi and Joshua Bashford rounding out the rear end of the field. So, what a session that was. Of course, P1, Q1 even, started a little bit quietly, but even then, by no means did it not have the opportunity for some drivers to really drive it home, just what they were up against.
They will have an opportunity now, Ben, for a little bit of a break, a little bit of a stretch. Some of the drivers will go back in there and take a little bit of a practice session around a little practice track that we have at the back of Silverstone. But absolutely for sure, they'll take a break. Of course, here at the SwiftX Series 1, Round 6, Great Britain. We're getting closer and closer, of course, halfway through. We're sponsored, of course, by the fantastic team at Digital Motorsports.
So, sponsored by Digital Motorsport, powered by Zifod. Great partners that we have the pleasure of working with. Be sure to give them some love. Tell them we sent you. But we do have an opportunity, in fact, to talk to, of course, the leader and the pole position holder in qualifying. Shall we have a chat with them?
Yeah, yes, because I want to talk to, if he is here in now, a second. Well, yeah, we'll drag him in, of course.
Yep, and there we go. So, speaking to the man himself, Emu.
Congratulations on your pole position. I just had to say that to you. Sorry, Ben. Go ahead.
Here we go. Say, of course, Emu Duracell, pole position here in the UK. How are you feeling about it? Of course, you did say that it was a strong track, and I think it's safe to say you still feel that way.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't expect the gap to be that big, but I'm happy with this gap, and I feel good for the race. I feel a lot more confident for the race than I did before, and I have the perfect strategy lined up. I think I got this in the bag.
You said you're going to hang up your racing gloves if somebody beats you in Silverstone.
If someone beats me on raw pace, like if you take out the safety cars, if someone is just faster than me, I'm retiring.
Okay, you're changing it up now, so it's not just going to be a race win. It's just if somebody's beating you on raw pace.
I mean, that's what I said before, I think.
All right. And what if it's the typical Silverstone weather and we get a downpour for the race? How good are you on the wet?
I'll love it. Every single bit of it. Everything about Silverstone is just perfect for me.
You heard that, Ben. So perhaps we'll throw some snow onto the track now. So we practice on that then.
I say bring out the trucks, the artificial snow machine. We'll see how you fare. But I guess on the point of that is it's clear you love Silverstone. You really set the timing sheets absolutely on fire when we were out there. But what makes Silverstone for you? Why this track of all tracks that you gravitate towards?
I honestly don't know. I think once I had a very important race here and I practiced a lot for it, and I practice so much that I guess I'm just on another level than every other driver here. I mean, I love the circuit. It has low speed, medium speed, high speed corners, it has everything. So it's just, I don't know. I actually don't know.
Was it fun to drive, most importantly?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Knowing that you're just faster than everyone else is a very good feeling.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to sound arrogant or something, but that's how I feel when I drive around Silverstone. I just feel like I own Silverstone when I drive around Silverstone.
It is your own stomping ground, as it were, but it's not like it's unfounded. So the difference between arrogance and acknowledgement is that you've got the receipts. You can back it up. So not like that it's coming completely out of left field. You have that backing, but you certainly have our backing. And say, Dean, any further questions from you?
Well, I mean, they might have to rename Hangar Straight, right? To Imar Durkovic Straight. Or just Durkovic Straight, because, Lewis, if you own this track, like Lewis Hamilton has in the past, then your name should definitely be stamped into this historical track for eternity from now on. How would that feel?
Let me tell you something. Yeah, last time I raced around Silverstone, that was like 2 weeks ago. I got a puncture on the last lap, and I still won. So I feel like Lewis Hamilton driving on this track. So having a straight named after me would be nice.
All right, we'll talk to the bosses a bit. Pat, SwiftX series, Swift series anyway. Thank you very much. Let you get ready prepare for the race.
Thank you.
And there we go. That was talking to, of course, our pole position holder, winner of qualifying, Emu Duracell, as I lovingly called him earlier. And we're really going to run this bit for the rest of the season if you let us. But we are going to be taking a short break ourselves. We've got to get ourselves ready. Going to have to talk to, say, the officials, drivers in the paddock. But for us, for now, any passing words before we head on our break?
Let's get ready to racing. Exactly. Rain's already coming down in my neck of the woods, as it usually is at this time, so I've got a sneaking suspicion there might be some rain for the race, but the only way to find out, of course, is to stick around. It's definitely coming up soon.
100%, and we cannot wait for it. So keep it here, SwiftX. We will be back with you shortly. We're just going to take a short break, but don't go anywhere. Still plenty of good content to be had, and we will see you in about half an hour's time. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 reds, and we are away. Let's take a look and see what we're going for here. It's a good getaway for the Habsburg here, and it's getting another getaway. It looks like contact all the way through, so a little bit as we've got to say Mir pushing through. Beyond is down on the grass, so is the Alfa Romeo. It's absolute anarchy heading into turn 1. Kieran getting away very nicely, getting a really good early start, heading straight into P1, maximizing the getaway. Say Jasper Tenhagen helping up and say it's all anarchy down the field. It's 3, 4, 5 wide, heading down through the edge of the first sector. We have got E2 heading very wide. We've got time penalties already starting to stack up across the field. A lot of the back markers unfortunately getting forced right clear. So Gustav coming off pretty badly from that. They've got quite a gap to the rest of the grid. Looks like they've got caught up in an early incident. That's the first lap if I've ever seen one.
Fantastic. These are probably helping the leaders kind of push a little bit away as Joshua's in between once again both of those Alpha Tauris. But in this point of view here, look at the sparks flying, land Lakeside Drive, full speed, 8 gear, maximum revs, maximum reward, and maximum risk, of course, if you get it all wrong.
And you can see, say, all of those little sort of micro adjustments to the lines. They're trying to peak. They're trying to go for moves. It looks like the Alpine is going to make a move around the outside. Joshua's going to hold the inside here. Is not going to have the pace. The Alpine really carrying their speed almost perfectly there, getting the move sealed down as we head to the final corners. I say it's a brilliant move there. And now Joshua is stuck behind the encroaching Ferrari behind them. Sorry, 4 seconds to the Ferrari behind, but they've still got to keep within that range. And it looks like the pressure is a little too much. This is a spin for Joshua Bashford right there.
You on board with Joshua? Don't
getting impacted.
Yeah, you can. The cars can actually get stuck too when the chassis gets caught on the chicane, and you've got no traction. Now you're not allowed to reset the track. I do think in some situations where your car literally gets stuck. I don't know about the rules in that one, but thankfully he didn't reverse up there. Could have destroyed other people's races. And now they're going to go down Lakeside Drive. Somebody's going to have to yield here. Otherwise, once again, my heart. No, they're not going to yield. And this is also going to be very dangerous if they can make that work. And there's definitely contact because it's almost impossible not to get contact. But they're going to go all the way down into Ascari now. Side by side, perhaps. They will. Alex is fighting tooth and nail, even though he's got older tires. He doesn't want to give it up, but he had to eventually.
And small mistakes that drivers like Noah are going to capitalize on. They're going to peek around the outside with the DRS. They're going to hold it around. They're going to carry the pace. And that's a beautiful move, using that 10-lap advantage on those hard compounds to elegantly move up into P11. And if that's not a sign for Alex to head into the pits, as they do now, I don't know what is.
Battle for the lead of the race. I know we're watching something else at the moment. I'm actually watching Cameron and Noah, so that's fine. Absolutely.
And they're reversing across the track right into the path of McCleary. It's a very close call. That might be brought into question there over at race control. That was a very risky move considering the traffic coming up. But yeah, Noah's missing a right front end plate. And they're going to be limping their car home as they get with the end of the race fast approaching. It's way too late to be making any form of pit stop. They're going to have to just deal with it. They've got 5 seconds ahead of Hosler, and they are going to be banking on that to limp home to a P12 potentially.
You're in trouble. And Jasper's in a bit of trouble. Jasper is in big trouble. That potentially could be race done. Is it damage? It is. He has about 20% damage to his front left end plate. He has to more worry about Jacob in the background, although Jacob has time penalties, but then it's the drive to survive. You got to get that car home if you want a podium.
And there we are. So coming around the final corner, say a brilliant showing there. Say despite all odds, despite the spins and 3-second penalty, they've come through. Emir Durekovic has won the Australian Grand Prix. And what a showing it was. Say again, a familiar sight, say a mistake only to surge back up to the front of the grid. You were right there, say Jasper taking the P2 with Kieran making the most of the time deficit caused by the penalties and locking in a P3, a strong podium for all three drivers and some brilliant performances out there today. So coming through the finish line, we've got, say, drivers like Jacob Shelton coming through P4 after penalties, E2 with P5, so lagging behind, but otherwise all drivers putting in a very strong performance today. But yeah, in terms of tyre strategy as well, not to mention, say we have what looks like a one-stop strategy going on for the majority of the field, say spacing themselves out and really just trying to maximize more hard-wearing characteristics of the longer stint compounds. But it looks like Jasper Tanak has fallen away.
There's an accident. There's an accident back where Frederick is. I think that was maybe Liam Frederick. There was an accident, and Korgs as well, the other Red Bull. Korsgaard's gone around. Also keep an eye on that one a little bit later, of course, because now Choose going for Peter into turn 1. Yes, of course, then turn 2, turn 3. There's your classic overtaking. AJ and Ryan still battling it out for P10 and P11. Action all over the place. Certainly keeping us as sharp as we possibly can. AJ still hasn't got past there just yet, but that's a battle for P10 with Ryan. And also keep an eye on Frederick is a part of that one. So, yeah, there's action absolutely everywhere. It's probably the closest right now back to those guys. And they've been at 2 for now right now. I thought they were almost teammates. And they are teammates. No, they are, of course. Those colours look a little bit different. But those Williams drivers, mate, I'm not sure there's any team orders there. No number 1, number 2 driver, because they're just at it 2 for now. Goes on the outside. Noah forces. Noah's going to defend this one now. He's only going to go through second, 2, and 3 as you kink it over. And look at that. Noah did try to defend like mad this time around. Ferrari's got it, but oh, so long. Because now you have the next back straight.
Forward. But coming through here, DRS being a big player, is about 20 kilometers an hour difference. It's going to be close.
Could be 3 into 1 here.
And AJ is boxed behind to say, of course, Maya taking the inside, fending off from Liam, who takes the outside. And of course, AJ is stuck right behind. But looks like they're going to get the run heading through into the second DRS zone. Are they going to be able to capitalize? No, again, they are going to be boxed in. Although Liam has managed to get a good run and is currently right side by side, heading through to the
on the edge of your seat.
It's on the attack of each other. So Liam is going to be ultimately through. AJ's going to immediately be coming sweeping back after as well. And of course, Fredericks, they burnt all their resources. They're out of battery. They can't continue that fight.
Moment. And Bjorn's caught back up to this one. So by battling and allowing the Haas, and there's going to be another run. AJ should have the DRS. He will have the DRS. And now you got to commit to it at this point. And around the outside, he's gone too deep.
Sideways.
And there's a collision.
And it's a 3-way collision. It's AJ, Frederick, and Bjorn. They're all in the wall. Well, not in the wall, or each other's walls. Sorry. Then the chasing Williams. So the question is, who is going to be the first to yield? It's the overtake on full deploy. We're down to the last few percentage, but AJ has the DRS. They're going to be chasing through and ultimately breezing by with a little bit of percentage to spare. But the question is, how are they going to cope with the re-attack? But that being said, I think Bashford burned too much battery to make a good move here.
I think they both burned it exactly. But yeah, I don't know what happened here. This is AJ's just recently signed up to the Williams team. I'm not quite sure he's going to be happy signing up to the Williams team because it's contact of AJ and Pete. Now it looks like AJ's going to lift off and allow and say, my bad, but what's going to happen is going to bring Liam into play. Liam doesn't have to lift off and say he's bad. Liam's going to go for it.
And ultimately, is that going to be read as a strategy call, or is it going to be read as good sportsmanship? Considering they were just heading into a DRS zone, I'm torn as what ultimately the stewards might view this as.
I saw, to me, it looked like AJ had lifted off there, realizing he had to contact and and allowed Pete to maintain that position. But the problem is, of course, he's got Liam there. AJ has to defend Liam. AJ has got nothing left, as you mentioned. Jasper, I don't think could do anything about Noah. We know that E2 did take Thomas, and looks like he might continue to get that P4 position, but nothing to get a podium right now. But this is where all the action is, of course, that you see. Oh, yeah, it looks like Jasper and Noah might be going for it. This is Jasper's time to shine on the final lap. He's been sitting behind Noah for some time now. Has he made the right strategy? Has he done an E2 strategy? Saved the battery? Not quite sure. It is the final lap, so that's it. And everything you have. No refunds on your battery when you get to that checkered flag, which obviously the Ferrari driver will. But who wants that second step on the podium?
But ultimately, we have to consider that throughout all of this, there's been one driver who has been smooth sailing, and that is Amir. So coming through final straight now. And in that Ferrari, what a performance it was. Amir Durakovic, you have won the Bahrain Grand Prix, and what a win it is. Really, just no drama, honestly. No drama whatsoever. I think that's the most surprising thing, is that despite all of the chaos around them, they had a clean race, no issues, or relatively little issues, and just kept their head down lap after lap after lap, didn't get involved, broke that gap, broke that DRS, and ultimately came home to sail to victory. It's a good showing for the lead Ferrari, Hughes.
It caught you off guard on that one. It doesn't matter, because there we go. The Ferrari on the outside. You've got the Alpine on the inside. There's Jasper, there's Luke, and there's there's Imor right up into, well, no, he's hit the wall. He's hit the wall. It's crashed. There's a massive
And
crash.
it's much, and the entire field is practically gridlocked. It's front wings everywhere. It's carbon left, right, and center. There's drivers out the race. That's 3 drivers. E2 lap alignment, Thomas Harper going to be all out of the race. They've all sustained terminal damage, and just like that, that could be a red flag of the session.
Yes,
I think we could see seeing a red flag here.
I mean, obviously, it's going to be definitely, believe it or not, they haven't even called a safety car, but we'll wait for this.
But something like side pod damage or floor damage, you're in a lot more trouble.
Kieran making a run, sorry to cut you off at P3, around the outside of the Mercedes. This is side by side through here. Once again, I said, we want to be very, very careful. There's not a lot, there is room, of course, but not at those speeds. Kieran does get the job done. He gets it on Luke, makes his way up into P3. Does have one of those early penalties, but... And there's a bit of a pack here behind Bjorn in P7. So Cameron, Jacob, Ryan, and wonder if that's going to allow AJ to come back into play. He's done a fantastic job too, from last place up to P11. But this is where Jacob and Red Bull, and there's the Red Bull of Ryan, I think, going for a rump on the inside. The Haas doesn't make it stick, goes too wide, because it could even lose it out here to the McLaren. You can't go 3 abreast through here. If you can, trust me, you will be retired like the other 3 drivers.
But here we go. So it looks like Jacob is trying to eye up a move. Doesn't get it done as they're going very deep. Trying to get the switch back. Looks like they've got it. They've gone around Bjorn here. They've got to just hold the position heading into the Snakies. But looks like they've locked it in. And now they're chasing down Cameron. Lost a front wing. That's not going to be good for their hopes for the sprint. Luckily, there's less stakes on the sprint, but by no means does it mean you can throw it off as nothing. But it's a double overtake on the inside of Will Casson. Say both Jacob and Ryan, they both just absolutely send it. I think Will Casson went way too deep there, and both of them just capitalized perfectly on it. There was a little bit of a wiggle there from Bjorn as it comes out of the final corner. So pushing it a little too thing. I think they are going a little bit too deep, so you can tell there's a little bit of scrub on the tires coming out of some of these corners. But it looks like Will Casson's got the DRS, and they're going to try and send it down the inside. Isn't quite going to work. Looks like they banged tires a little bit as they head through turns 1 and 2 as AJ heads into the pits, replacing that front wing they lost. But these two are definitely going at it. Bjorn manages to secure that position for now, but I don't know if Will is going to be chasing them back down. I think he's playing a bit of a longer game here, actually, if I'm going to throw my hat in the ring on this one. They have the DRS train of the 2 of them. I think he's going to wait potentially a couple of laps down rather than make the move. Although I say that, it's gone deep. It's gone very deep down the inside, and Timberenko is immediately going to respond with the mild switchback, but they're both going to have the DRS. It's going to be a drag race right down to the start-finish line. Both of them giving absolutely no breath. So they're clocking in 202 miles an hour as they come through the 2 corners 1 and 2, and I say Kieran, just like that, they are back down. I think they just went way too deep, And I think that was potentially a bad strategy call. They're about to go side by side nearly. Doesn't go for it, so you can tell a little bit of frustration from Kieran there that they didn't lock in the move. They're going a little bit too deep now. I think they're a bit in their own head. They need to pull themselves out of there. They have 3 laps to go, and it's still anyone's race. If they play this strategy right, use the 2 DRS zones at the end of the track to their advantage, they could potentially be in with a podium if they know what they're doing. The wheel, but is it going to be too little too late to say there's a half a second between them?
There's an accident with Cameron Ryan, I think.
Oh, it is about to be in the
Jacob.
path of the 2 oncoming drivers. They managed to just avoid it, kicking up some carbon on the way. But Jacob and Senua, I mean, a big accident there. Unfortunately, we didn't catch it fully. But what has gone on there? Did you manage to see from your POV in the box?
I just switched to it. Yeah, keep an eye on Liam making a run now with Frederick. Take absolutely no prisoner. But Luke might be taking a prisoner. Jasper for the lead of this race. Does he go around the outside? Gets the inside line. Now, we've seen what happens when a couple of drivers go through here, but they're still going to battle it out. Jasper's going to defend like mad here. Luke wants this P1. In the background is Kieran. There's the other Luke. Ryan and AJ are in P5 and P6, working together, strategists to make sure of the Williams. But here it is. It's definitely a challenge for the lead. This is where the DRS comes into all the play.
Yeah, DRS officially now being enabled here, and I think we've immediately seen a bit of an effect to say Will Casson hopping up to 8th position in that Aston Martin. And say the Aston Martins have really seemed to have found their form this round. And say they've got, despite a 10-place grid drop, Will is still up in P8, and then Luke Franklin up in P2 after a commanding performance in qualifying and the sprint, and doesn't want to let that lead go without a fight. They're staying on the tail of Jasper ten Hag, and Kieran also trying to claw up that distance, but I think they've got to be careful of burning their resources too early. We have 25 laps.
It's so fast and furious, this track. It's brilliant. Look at the speed, the sparks in the nighttime, the twilight. In Saudi Arabia, you got the votes out there. Well, Karen at the moment is trying to bring this onto Luke. Now, I guess about 20-something% of you voted for Kieran to get this race win. I think majority of you voted for Luke. Well, I think Karen wants to turn those statistics upside down. But remember, we have 25 laps. We're 4 down. Another poll's up at the moment. Will Bjorn de Boer finish higher than P10? Get your votes in. And Luke has got him. Luke has got Jasper into turn 1. Job done with the DRS. They did the switcheroo before. The Alpha Tauri needs to make a fashion statement right now on the Alpine. And I think he definitely will down the back straight. Should be no problems once you get that letterbox open. The letterbox will give you 15 kilometers an hour. No, good defense there actually from Noah. Noah shut the door on him.
But wait there just a second. You've got to think you've got the second DRS zone coming up. He stayed behind, but doesn't look like either of them are running it. But even so, Locke has got the overspeed on that Alpine. They're going to try and hold the outside. Noah's doing very well to defend his contact between the two's wings and heading through the first couple corners. See Locke getting very wide, very squirrely on the throttle. I think they're just applying that a little bit too early and unsettling the car, and that's something you've got to avoid.
Aston Martin coming down the final corner, down the main straight. He's going to be either passing everybody in the pit lane. They are exiting the pit lane right now. Can you to this race? I'm not quite sure it's going to be enough here. They're exiting. It's going to be close into turn 1. Has he done it? Oh, look at this. The Mercedes has come out just ahead of him. There's the 2 Lukes. So has this paid off or not? He's got the temperature in his tires. He's going to go for it for sure. He's got to stick it. He's got the temperature in the tires. He has. The Aston Martin has taken it. That's worked brilliantly. The undercut going into the pit lane early. He's got it done, and he's in the net lead of this race. Actually, Kieran is in the net lead of this race. My apologies. Kieran is in the net lead. I forgot about that. But anyway, that was the battle between the Lukes.
Kieran has also made their stop. They're trying to get the temperature into those hards, but Franklin's already there. He's right behind him now. It's 3/10 between the two. DRS is open, heading down the penultimate straight to the final corner. He's not going to get it done, or is he? He's going to be peeking down the inside. He's not going to go for it. Final corner. He's going
to back off for the DRS,
He's going to go for the second zone.
Yes, I think that's the key. Now, I did pick Karen. I did vote for Karen to win this race. So come on, Karen, don't let me down. We'll see. Alex and we'll have swapped positions, and here we go. Luke,
and just like that,
gets the tuck in front there, no problemo. But Kieran once again will have that DRS a little bit later on. Now E2 has to box. He's still out there on the same tires he started with. He can go a little bit deeper in this race, of course, on those hard tires. When he's got by box, that's 20 seconds down the road. If you look at gap to leader, That'll put him back around where P12 is or beyond. And I'm so Kieran is getting second looking at the rear bumper or rear wing, of course, of the other car. Kieran's going to make a move now. He's absolutely going to make a move. The AlphaTauri, no, tucks in behind. But there it is. Final corner.
He's
27,
waiting.
Believe it. And can he make a run now?
He's waiting for that second DRS detection zone as we get a local yellow in Sector 1. Looks like someone slowed down there, but he's got the DRS. He's going to tuck in right behind, peeking around the outside. Is he going to make it work? The flaps closed. He has the inside, keeping it wheel to wheel between the two, and he's going to get the move done through the chicane.
That's how you do it, exactly. Because you've got to take the outside line because it turns into the inside line of turn 2 and turn 3. Brilliant move. Remember, Kieran's been staring down tailpipe of these cars for many laps, including the previous one, the sprint. So I think he's just waiting for his right time, right place. And that is how you do it for the Scotsman.
Make that gap shrink ever smaller and smaller. They're going to make a move here. So the DRS is open. Will is going to be right on the tail of Ten Hag, as they're going to be slightly on the outside, peeking it round. Not going to go for it. It's side by side, though, between Emir and Ten Haken. He's going to go deep. He's not going to get the move done, and that's the move that they need for Emir to defend from Ten Haken, and Ten Haken to be passed by Will. But it's not going to go without a fight. It's heavy contact. There's some wheel bumping, rubbing.
You can't do three. You can't do three in this corner. Oh, thankfully, I think it was... He lifted off. I think it was Will lifted off. That was a very wise move.
And in all that chaos, I think and Alex Hostler got a little bit spooked by that. You saw a big kick out from the rear coming out of turn 2, and they are back down in 8th place. They've lost their place in the train. Casson had no choice but to back off and say, you can't make 3 in 1. And certainly not happening here. We are, for the most part, back at status quo. AJ, big loser from all of this, down into 9th. They've lost that advantage.
He got twirly-whirly out of that, and he backed off, which is probably a very smart move because you live to see another day. Yeah, we learnt from the first sprint race what happens if 3 into 1 corner doesn't work. Somebody was a little bit clever on that one. Backed off. Alex right now under massive pressure there from AJ. We've all this pressure. This is the battle. This is what the key to be looking at right now. And I'll tell you what, I'm sweating. The heat here in Saudi Arabia is exhaustingly hot.
We'll see who wants it more. It's a battle of pride now as they pushing absolutely everything. That flashing light still coming from Kieran. He's putting everything he can into that battery, trying to save as much as he can for those double DRSs. But Luke is going to take his chance. He's fighting ahead, but looks like there's an accident ahead. What's going on? Liam has gone off track. What's happened? Oh, it is
It's a collision. It's killed Luke.
Luke is out of the race!
Oh no, Kieran's going to win this race, but I'm sure he didn't want to win this race like that. Luke is out. Luke, as unfortunately, was a victim of a car parked in the middle. Oh, this is even more exciting, isn't it, than the 2021 race season?
And an almost cruel twist of fate.
Kieran's going to get it done. The Scotsman, I'm sure he's going to be loving this one, but he wanted to battle it to the line. What just happened? The other Luke will get the P2.
What
we'll
a
have
twist.
Will round out 10 seconds and change down the road, believe it or not. And the other, well, there it is. So the other Aston Martin will get to the, well, yes, the Aston Martin will get the P3. But, oh no, Luke was the other Aston Martin that could have got that P2. It's not his fault, of course. Just nowhere to go. Car in the middle of a track, a.k.a. accident. Game over.
Lots of fighting up and down the field. Emir getting away quite quickly from it all. It looks like there's some issues down at the back of the field. Not sure what's going on there. It looks like a hat is backwards. That's E2. And everyone is spinning round. That's Alex Hostler also back around, coming through turn 2. Both of the drivers are spinning out. And you can see immediately no chill, all chaos. And there's another pile up at the back of the field.
There is, yeah. AJ just got past, I think. And there was Liam involved. There is... a ton of cars there, carbon fiber, but not any of those cars are DNF'd, actually, believe it or not. So we won't get a red flag. It's go, go, go. We don't even get a yellow flag there. It's all BK, but trust me, coming around the pit lane, there's got to be a ton of cars going down there to change some carbon fiber parts. Oh, well. I think at the moment, E2 as well in the back there. I'll try to keep an eye on all the action at the back there. Keep an eye on the action at the front. There's so much to keep an eye on.
Oh, there's a spin for Maximilian. He stands backwards, and it's a
E2
big
straight in the wall as well. That's going to be maybe another... Oh, I don't know. You don't think you can get another safety car? I'm not quite sure if they can deploy another one.
Not at this point. They're carbon littering the straight coming out of turn 3, though. Cass is out of the session as well, to boot.
Prix, but now these days at Silverstone, it's fast, it's furious, and we've already seen a Ferrari on top there dominating the qualifying performance. And we're going to be seeing, obviously, many of these 16 or 18 corners, of course. Starting grid.
Let's take a look at the starting grid then. Of course, I say flying to the top of the sheet, it's going to be Emir Durekovic in that Ferrari. Absolutely blistering pace, although we'll have to wait and see how they hold it up. Luke Brinker coming in and finishing off the top row. Will Casson and AJ Jackson take P3 and P4 after some absolutely stonking Q3 performances. Third row, Jasper Ten Haken, the other Mercedes driver, also pulling their weight in the team, really putting some pressure on with Cameron Searle in P6. P7 and P8 is taken up by a Haas and an AlphaTauri, Bjorn de Moor and the joining reserve driver Antonio Cortez. Very good early showing. Noah Illicorpi and Joshua Bashford round out row 5, with Noah taking the Aston Martin spot, filling in that reserve for Luke Franklin, and Bashford putting in another good performance. E2 Lapalainen and Maximilian Kloss taking P11 and P12 respectively. More good performances, just shy in Q3, however, along with Ryan Yelty and Peter Loke in those Williams and Red Bulls. They were putting in the pacing but just didn't quite have it this time, along with Liam Markham and Thomas Hardwick, who is starting from the back of the grid, opted not to join us in qualifying as they had a back of the grid penalty. But that is going to be your starting grid here, ladies and gentlemen. We are just seconds away from the race and it's about to get underway here at SwiftX. You excited, Dean? I'm sure you will be. Look at the weather.
Yes, I called it. Classic Silverstone weather. I just thought it's just too nice of a day, isn't it? In the United Kingdom to have a nice, beautiful race track. It happens once, maybe twice a year if you're lucky. Fortunately for the drivers here at SwiftX, they're not going to have that, but they're going to get a formation lap. And of course, the formation lap, they're going to get an idea of how these intermediate tyres are going to feel, because that's what they're going to be starting on, I believe, for every driver on the grid, all 16 of them.
Yeah, so well, remember, all of the drivers practiced and did qualifying in dry running. So we heard from our pole leader that Amir is very confident in the wet just as much, if not more, than they are in the dry. So we're going to see just how that Dominion holds up. It looks like it's going to be an inter-race, but depending on how hard it pours down, may even see us heading onto the full wet compounds. Depends how much water we have to displace. Remember, there's no standing water on the track, but the downpour dictates just how insane the racing is going to be as well. Everyone's lining up on the grid now. We're going to see everyone getting poised and ready to fire away, fire on all cylinders. Those 1.6 turbo V6s, potent little things, but they're going to be giving it absolutely everything they have. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The track is live and we are away. Looks like a very good start from one of the AlphaTauri drivers. It looks like Cortez making a good run. Emir immediately setting the pace there, pushing forward as far as they can in those early stages, giving it absolutely everything that they have to try and get away from the rest of the field. Markham looks to be dropping down in a big way. Looks like that is Jackson getting it rearward, spinning out, coming through turn 3. And really, we are just starting to see a little bit of pandemonium. Markham is also down at the back of the field as well, has a bit of an issue, and dropping down to the field along with Bjorn de Boer, who's also throwing it down at the lower end. I think, say, not all drivers were just as prepared for the pandemonium of the opening lap here.
Well, those cold tyres, of course, and the cold weather in the intermediates. Yes, AJ had a little of a moment where he was battling it actually with Will. Had a little bit of a mistake, dropped it and spun around. Peter Loke and Maximum Kloss now are making a battle. And there was contact, I think, maybe between Thomas Hardwick and Liam. We'll check to see a little bit about if they had any damage on their cars, but so far I'd have to say, aside from that, it's not too bad, as E2's gained 4 places, as well as Ryan and Peter Lock getting 4 apiece each. AJ's the biggest loser, unfortunately for him, and Bjorn de Boer, of course, dropped to P16. Blast right now. 9 places lost.
Yeah, so right now, looking at the mid of the field, we're going to see a bit of a move going on. We've got Cameron Searle dropping down in a big way, trying to fight and push their way back up with Corpi and Lapalainen. That Aston Martin is right on the tail of that Haas, but we're going to keep on board with that Red Bull for the time being. Jackson is also making a few moves down the back of the grid, looking to recover where they floundered. Otherwise, it was a very good position, but Cell also on the pressure from Yelty just behind. Hopefully their teammate and Look can back them up in just a second, but they need to claw that gap back in.
And this weather's going to be like this for at least probably the rest of the race. We'll see. Front wing change from Joshua Bashford in the pit lane currently at the moment, as we kind of think there was some contact that had obviously occurred. Intermediate tyres obviously can go all the way, so a mandatory pit stop is not required. But how much can you take care of those green striped tyres? E2 goes fastest in the middle, first sector, and AJ now charging back. But looks like E2 and making a battle on Anton.
It looks like amidst all of that action, we had Nuai, who absolutely capitalized on that, got a double overtake, heading down and into Cops. Really nicely done there, just held it on the inside, really stuck to their gun, stuck to their line. The other two drivers in there fighting, they managed to wash wide, and they left the door wide open for that Aston Martin to just come gliding right through. By comparison, on the look from, say, as we got everyone now pushing, was DRS not going to be a factor anymore. Wet weather, DRS is off as a safety measure, which means that drivers are going to be pushing on raw pace alone. And so far, Emir, about a 1.5 second gap to the next driver on the field, and we're just in lap 2.
Yeah, it's just going to be easy for him. I think he said he's practiced. He's like, bring on the rain. He says he's even better in the rain than he is in the dry. And we saw how quick he is as another proof. And obviously those times will start tumbling because he's going to have... Somebody's gone off, I think, into the background. That's Ryan. Ryan has made a little bit of an exit coming out of... And he's clipped one of those braking markers as well, too. I think that was out of club.
Yeah, maybe a little bit of damage to the car, as well as being served, as we saw with the stewards, a penalty as well. Corpi is going to be currently sitting, though, with the fastest lap on the track so far. Looks like they're doing okay in the wet, but I say Kassan also is looking like they are kind of struggling. We saw them getting a little bit shifty with their car and struggling to keep the rear down, getting a little bit squirrely on the throttle. It looks like we have a few penalties starting to roll in. 10 seconds here, 10 seconds there. Say that is certainly one thing that drivers have to look out for. They've got to be careful, especially on wet weather. You can't leave anything to chance. I say Jackson now getting a 10-second. Not sure what is going on there.
That's a harsh penalty. Yes, exactly. I'm just checking in race control if this has been confirmed. I'm not getting some of that information on ourselves, and so we'll keep an eye on that one. The only one I'm aware of right now is Ryan for a penalty, but that's because he went right off the track there. Maybe that one would definitely be removed, because it could very much be just because he was off the track that they decided that was a track excursion. But I tell you what, you're not going to gain any time. You go that far out the grass. Tell you what, it's obviously good performance. Both Will Kassan and Noah, because they in the Aston Martins are doing pretty good here at home. You can hear the cheer from the British audiences every time the Aston Martins go around the track.
Well, I say his British team, I think, in fact, also centered near or at, say, Brackley, if not Silverstone as well. So you have to double check on that. But right now, the Aston Martins can't rest on their laurels just yet, as we are on board with Lapalainen at this point, putting pressure on Corpi, one of the races, say, fastest on raw pace. But you can see, again, we've seen this a few times now, but Lapalainen just can't hold the rear down as much as they like. A little bit squirrely coming out of certain corners. I think this is just where drivers need to exercise that restraint more than ever in the wet. You don't have nearly as much grip as you think you do. Downforce can often be deceiving, because remember, the slower you go and the more rounded, say, the corner is, then you have less grip to play with. Downforce is proportional to how fast you're going. And where's arguably your lowest speed? Just coming out of an apex and putting the throttle on.
We'll see about Cameron trying to see in P8 at the moment. Antonio Cortez, our Spaniard driver. Cameron Seal, of course, is from here in the United Kingdom, and that's one of the closest battles you're going to find on track, as that Red Bull has slowly been reeling him in. Of course, he's got Peter Lockdown and Thomas Hardwick behind, but they're not going to get a DRS train. We're told it may be a DRS train. We'll see at the moment. Cameron all about trying to get an exit out of perhaps club. That's a tough one, but as you said, you get the power down too much, and then that rear end's going to just disagree with you. And let's see, as he gets a little slidey coming out. Oh, he's okay. But that also E2 battling it out with Noah for P5 and P6. So there are a couple of those close battles at the moment to keep an eye on without the DRS, but with the rain. And that's with the pain too for some of the drivers. So let's see.
We've got to remember, in a lot of ways, the lack of DRS is a little bit of a skill check for drivers. As you don't have nearly as much grip to play with. You don't nearly have as much options. You still have things like ERS, resource management, managing your tires, especially with the lessened restrictions on what tires you can run and how you can run them. So like you said, inters technically can be taken all the way to the end, but by that point, would there still be a tire left is the question drivers have got to answer. But you have less options.
Would it have any grooves left in it too? It'd be turning into a soft tire at that point, wouldn't it? A flat.
Well, we have actually seen in prior times, we've seen some very curious characteristics coming from these inters. In fact, one of the, say, the most iconic performances, I believe it was Hungary in 2021, where, say, the inters actually became a form of wet slick tire as the grooves wore away, and drivers found that as they wore into those inters, you got a slick contact patch back, but you still had the softer compound benefit. So while the track was cold, it still had a lot of moisture in it. It wasn't enough to create standing water to displace. So depending on how the track evolves over the course of the race, we could see some real strategic moves going on here.
We're going to find out if those drivers are going to be bold and brave. Currently at the moment, as far as I'm getting the information down there from Ted in the pit lane, is that about 15% worn. So that's not bad at all, of course. Plenty of laps to go. If anybody is their safety car, you would imagine some of the drivers might jump in there and gamble. One thing they're not going to gamble on right now is switching to dry tires, because you can see that track is still bucketing down. Thomas at the moment, P10. He's starting to get very close there on the batter peak Peter Lock. And that's still continuing in this non-DRS training. And almost gets twirly-whirly coming out of that for the Alpine driver. And that was coming out of Antry. And now making his way up into Brooklands. And that's got to be fun, isn't it? In the dry, it's even more fun. You're going to go to Lupfield immediately, the cross Camber corner, and that's a bit of a pack up the road. You can see from Anton Cortos 7 down to where Thomas is.
Yes, in the case of Thomas in that Alpine, they've done very well for themselves so far. Of course, starting right down at the bottom of the field, that back of the grid penalty meant that essentially they were out of qualifying no matter what they did. So they really just opted to save the car, save the resources, put it into where it matters, which is the race, because knowing qualifying, even if they can knock some people out, will not amount to much in the grand scheme of things. But they have done well. P10 right now, trying to put a bit of pressure on those Red Bulls, both of them together. Of course, Cell is locked into their own fight, trying to keep that pressure on Cortez right now. But as it stands, they certainly have some room to make some moves, and if they can get between those Red Bulls, certainly going to be a beneficial move strategy-wise. Cortez right along the side of Cell right now. We're just looking ahead on board from Hardwick's POV. You can see that Cortez has had to concede the position. Lock as well. Maybe we'll see a move from them. Doesn't quite look like it, however. It's going to bide their time. Maybe rely on their teammate a little bit. They've got them right in front of them. And this is something drivers neglect, is the team play. But he's very vulnerable. Locke is going to be attacked from the inside by Hardwick. He's going to hold his ground, hold his line, and lock in P9, at least for now. He's going to stay safe for the time being, but he knows right now. Hardwick has made that very clear. He's poked his nose in. He said hello. He's opened the door. He's essentially put a stopper in, so he knows that any time he can catch Locke off guard and he can go for another move once again.
It's difficult situations. It's difficult weather. The drivers are the best that you're going to find here at Swift Motorsports. Obviously proudly presented by Digital Motorsports. And they got to get it done exactly. So Peter's also got to be looking at Antonio. That's Peter Locke in P9. He's looking at Antonio Cortez, who's also looking in the back of Cameron Searle. And of course, Thomas is behind them. And guess what? AJ has now joined that party as they're battling. And then you've got multiple Williams to deal with. You've got Alpine, you go off and off, AlphaTauri, and you've got just fun action so far on lap 7.
Yeah, it looks like drivers are certainly keeping it interesting for us. We've got Locke going around the outside, trying to hold the line, get the momentum there. Looks like he's got it. He's going to have the inside line heading into the next corner. Going to poke and brake just that little bit later. He's going to have the squeeze on Cortez. And just like that, both Red Bulls now in P7 and P8, but looks like almost he got very out of shape there.
AJ's gone for it as well, too, because what's happened is that Thomas had to back off a little bit because there was a little bit of a tap on the back of Antonio, who had a little bit of a power slide because of all that town meeting that was going on. No damage, of course, luckily for Thomas, but it did cost him a little bit, and he's still side by side with AJ right now. Thomas and AJ battle out for P10 and P11. Antonio just up the road. AJ does not want to yield. Of course, you don't have to, but there's a space and there's contact. And that's Thomas around.
Yeah, I couldn't really see what happened there, but to say we were on board with AJ as that all unfolded. You can see constantly a little bit of a bumping, a little bit of contact, rubbing wheels, rubbing tires, and eventually just became too much. Looks like Hardwick got the hard end of the stick on that one. Is down into P13 after that incident. As say Amir, our race leader, along with a lot of other drivers, seem to be extending the track a fair bit because they're being handed out 3-second penalties, along with, in some cases, the other 10s.
The Rolex time penalty awards could be going to somebody. Of course, you get too many of them, you should be wearing a Rolex so that you're on time. But at the moment, who's on time? Will Caston. He doesn't need a Rolex. He has a thing called a Alfa Romeo machine. And the British. And he's certainly catching the back of Luke Ten Brinky. Of course, their teammate of Jasper Ten Hacken, who's the second man in the championship, and Email's just driving like he does best, obviously owning this track. He said he was going to own it. I think he's looked good for a trifecta as well, because he has the fastest lap. He had pole, and he needs that race win to get that trifecta. AJ, that was an interesting battle before, because it looked like Thomas was, when you're on the power and the rear slides a little bit, and of course they're so side by side at that point, that it's very, very easy to tap into somebody. So that's just one for the racing stewards. I just call it, to me, it looked like just wheel-to-wheel racing, Got to go for it. AJ had to go for it. Thomas has to defend. That's just what happens.
Yeah, they have to really just put their elbows out, especially in the wet, as we said before about that being a little bit of a skill check. You've got really no choice but to stand your ground. Looks like both drivers were holding their line, holding their ground, and eventually they just converged. And there had to be a loser in that fight. Unfortunately, Hardwick was the one to lose out for that. They say maybe stewards will take a look, but it's about where you draw that line to say what is hard racing, what is something that's a little bit unsportsmanlike. We'll have to, of course, wait and see. But Will Casson, we're on board with right now a little bit of a sticky situation for them, because they have, of course, been put in a Silver Arrow sandwich. Say the Brackley-based team has got P2 and P4. Right now, they've got the Aston right where they want them, because if they play a little bit of smarts, a little bit of team play, it looks like he's going into the pits, though. That's
an early pit stop. Yeah,
very early.
30s on those tires at the moment, the Aston Martin. Doesn't have any damage at all, so no front wing change. This is just an unskilled. Maximum Kloss has DNF'd, so he has. Maximum Kloss has crashed somewhere. That's out of Stowe. That could be a high-speed crash there for that Alpine driver, I think. So what's going on? Is that that's because they're predicting a safety car or a virtual safety car. That could have Will made that call, but there is no. Things coming in from race control. Just a local yellow on that corner, and they have now removed that car. Thankfully, the driver is okay. A high-speed accident in Stowe. You've seen that before, haven't we, in the past?
Yeah, say with Will Casson, I think they were just banking on a potential safety car, and it just didn't come. Just like that, they've gone for an early stop, a very curious strategy. We might see them run those inters to the very end, but otherwise they put themselves in a bit of a compromising position. All the way down in P12. Has a bit of clean air, mind, but they don't have that track position, which is key, especially in these stages of the race and in something like a wet race. These positions are essential to locking in a good performance.
And obviously, because we do have an exciting race, but I don't know if we get a chance to chat to that driver maybe at all. If they do want to come into the waiting room, if we get a chance, of course, and break in the action. I'd like to chat to Maximum Kloss about what happened on that. If he's feeling up to it, of course.
I think what happened
once
is
he's got a medical check.
Yeah, so once we get them cleared to sort for medical course. But I think what happened, as my take on it, is simply they were, of course, to say, coming out of Stowe and just a little bit too much on the bravery pedal. Wet, we've seen from the onboards just how much these drivers are, well, they're understeering. How much input they're having to take, how much they're having to lift off in terms of speed.
Luke's gone in. Luke
Saying-
Labrinki's gone in. So this is, I'm still not seeing what the major tires are still in the 30s. Not even approaching the 40s yet, I'd imagine, for most of the drivers. That's an earlier scheduled pit stop. You've got to remember, you're getting close to the halfway point of the race, but you're still under the halfway point of the race. They know something we don't know, Ben.
I think what we might be seeing is, of course, there is still things like grip drop-off to consider. I'm not sure if drivers are looking around, maybe seeing if they can chance it potentially, but as it stands, everyone's gone on back to a fresh set of inters. I think they're going to try and get their pit stops early and then see if they can run it out to the end of the race.
I guess at this point, if you can't get overtaking done, which is very, very notoriously difficult at the moment, we've seen a couple of overtakes attempted. Well, apart from that brilliant overtake we saw, wasn't it, from the driver before they got the 2-for-1 special, which is just amazing in itself. Aside from that, we saw the overtaking opportunities that tried to occur there, but obviously between Thomas and AJ, and then Thomas went spinning around. So I think drivers are well aware of it. Their engineers on the radio going, you know, if you're going to be gambling, you have to try to make your timing, your overtake most perfectly now. So then, right, can't get it done on track, get it done in the pit lane.
Yeah, remember I say the pit lane is essentially a meta game. It's another layer of strategy because drivers can essentially put themselves in a different race, metaphorically. So we see there now, we've got another driver going into the pits. That is going to be Lapalainen, currently in P5, but is going to be dropping down quickly. Locke also going to do the same.
Yeah.
Remember,
And Luke Franklin out there is obviously going up, come on, Cass. Now, Cass, we saw Will Carsten coming for that pit lane earlier, so is this going to be an undercut on Cass on Binky, exactly as you'd mentioned?
yeah, the,
Keep an eye on that.
The meta game of the pit stop is it allows drivers to, if they're stuck behind another driver, looks like a little bit of a slow pit stop there from Lapalainen. It's just a few seconds up on what they should be. A lot of drivers, the second Haas of De Boer also coming in, 37 seconds in the pit lane. Say not too bad overall, but not as fast of a pit stop as they would have liked. But
He did get it done, you're right. Sorry, apologies about that. That was a little bit in the past. Bill did get clear of the Mercedes from the undercut. Remember, he was running. Just ahead, Liam has retired for the session. That's another crash. Yes, it is. It's out of Farm and Village.
and that is going to be a full safety car this time round. A full safety car has officially been deployed.
Oh. Guess who this pans out, everybody, at the moment, from Will to Luke Brinkley, and everybody else that's there from P8 down have boxed already. So they can stay out. Will the leaders come in?
So not all is lost for those who have just stayed, who have just gone into pit, because remember, everyone else is going to be pit. That might be a potential to gain some other track positions, but of course they will be running at a loss considering the time deficits on display compared to a standard safety car.
It's about a 30 for a pit stop, mate. Maybe even a little bit more because it's wet. That's interesting. Now,
we did see about 37 seconds, I believe it was, from the Haas driver from Lapalainen, and we should expect that time loss to shrink as drivers are getting into the pits now. Everyone's popping in, basically all of the top drivers. In fact, Jackson leads the race currently, but they are one of the few drivers who have yet to take a stop, potentially on the next lap.
Doesn't need to, of course.
So he doesn't exactly need to at this point. It's just a case of whether he wants to, or whether he's running potentially a zero-stop strategy. A brave move, if so.
Can be done. I have seen it before. You have to nurse those tyres at the back a little bit later. The only big problem, of course, is you got this Ferrari just mastermind machine that's going to be very, very quick, as we see Emar Derkovic owns this track, really. I'll have to call it the Emar British GP soon. He's looking for his name, isn't he, on to replace the Hangar Straight with Derkovic Straight. He keeps up this performance, but for now, that's going to be tough for AJ to try to really keep him at bay behind when the British driver, sorry, the Canadian driver in the British team will be just okay to yield a couple places and just try to get himself back up into the points paying positions because he did start his best qualifying performance I think all season, starting in P4.
Yes, a very strong performance from them. But one thing that we got to remember is, of course, the quali is one thing, but the strategy in the race is another. Take a look at Jackson's tires right now. 30% on the fronts, 20% on the rears. And I think this is emblematic of what it means to be a controller player. We talked about degradation. We talked about how wheel is a lot easier to hold angle. Controller, this is an example of what scrubbing gets you. Of course, that tire conservation game is not going to be playing out very much in their favor. Hopefully they can keep a lid on it, because they do currently have very frontward in terms of wear. Might be looking into understeer, which might be what they want, because remember, understeer is stable. You don't want oversteer. That's the one that you do not want in weather like this. So could potentially still rock it in their favor, but it is one thing they will have to be careful of as the race goes on, and they look to be potentially getting that zero stop racing.
And he's Canadian, my friend, so he's used to driving in snow. So on top of that, he's well aware of how a car could slide in circumstances. And you actually do speak to drivers and about one in dry situations. Like some drivers like them understeer and oversteer. That's pretty much almost a 50-50 when it comes to different driving styles and the way they set the cars up. Weather, of course, do change that. But another key thing that AJ does have, my friend, to Benjamin, is track position, and we do see how difficult it is to overtake here because you don't have those DRS goodies at your disposal. And Emil Durkovic, of course, has a championship for stakes here. He's got maximum points he can gain here today. Will he risk it to try to get past AJ? Now he's going to want that race win, but he's got time up his sleeve because we're just over halfway through the race, so I don't think he's going to be gambling immediately at trying anything a little risky. Because that potential P1, P2 can end up into a DNF.
That being said, I think they will go for P1. There's no denying it. As you heard the confidence in the commentary box when they came out of qualifying, and wet is arguably even stronger for them. So you know that they're going to be pushing. In fact, to say even right now, keeping it close on the rear of the Williams under the safety car period. But you really can't count them out. To say track position is key, you're right, but even without those goodies, there's still plenty of opportunity for overtakes. It's all about that balance of offense and defense. If you go for really aggressive laps and of course you mess up, that's going to leave the door wide open. Similarly, if you play too conservatively, eventually you're going to have a lot of drivers stacked behind you, and they will be very hungry and get more desperate as time goes on. So it's a matter of time, matter of playing your cards right. But right now, safety car has come in. Jackson has control of the race pace. How are they going to do it? What are they going to do? And as we come through, say, final corner here, Jackson going to set off, get that pace under their belt. Emir also following very close behind with a good start themselves. And we are back up to race pace. Jackson holding the line, doing so very nicely. It's the two Mercedes right on each other's tails there. We got Ilakopi down the back as well, putting a bit of aggression on those Mercedes.
Pressure right down the inside. Sapan Jasper. That's bold and brave. He's going to hold the rear end as it slides out of loser position to E2. He tried it. Didn't quite work off. This is what we're saying, isn't it, in the race so far? You're really risking it for the biscuit on some of it. He's got now a Red Bull of Cameron Searle to send that one up, seal it. As they're going for these early opportunities, going to go side by side. You can see how tricky it is. The temperature of the cars, the tires are cold. The temperature of the drivers inside the cockpit is just steaming.
They're putting an absolute all into these, and they are really just trying to manage the situation as best they can, because they do have a lot of pressure from other competitors, but also it's such a more difficult job, even with the softer compounds, to get some warmth into these rubbers. You saw drivers weaving and trying to go as fast as they could on track to try and get some much needed heat into the tires before it was go time. Emir throws a little bit of a dummy on the inside, but track position is going to be something that they fight for, not just on a strategic front, but on a raw pace front. Emir's gone around the outside. He has the superior push. He's going to hold that, and he's going to lock in P1. And just like that, he's showing his dominion, not only in Silverstone, but in the wet. As we come through next lap here, It's all to play for the
Trusting in
drivers
his tires,
behind.
I think it's going to be really the key on that one. I didn't think AJ was going to put up too much of a fight on that. Keep it out on the Haas driver in P11 right now. Beyond the board, it's got Peter Locke just up the road. It's a bit further down the field, but they are very, very close because Ryan's also got into the pit lane. Check an eye on that one and see whether he got any damage. AJ's got to hold off now, Mr. Will, the Aston Martin at home. And I think Will definitely gains. That pit stop strategy had worked by boxing a little bit earlier and getting the undercut, because you remember he jumped the Mercedes that he needed to get. And unfortunately, Noah, of course, with that little bit of a mistake, was in the part of that. That Aston Martins had held the Mercedes in that sandwich in a kind of reverse scenario that we saw a little bit earlier in the race. But nothing's happening there now with the opportunity for Beyond de Boer. He does have Thomas Hardwick now charging back there as well. So multiple battles all over the place, but no DRS.
Yeah, there's that vital tool, especially in some of the straights, that really is responsible for quite a fair chunk of overtakes, and it's one they don't really have up their sleeve here. Hardwick keeping on the tail of De Boer here, not giving him an inch to breathe as they both come in approach to Loke here. They're both going to be sending it around the inside and the outside even to varying degrees. Not going to get it done, but one big loser out of all of this is De Boer, as he left the door open for Hardwick to swoop right through, take that line, and really just cement their position back up into P11. So another good recovery from the Alpine.
Yeah, especially the Alpine that started plump last as well, Thomas Hardwick. So that's not bad at all, gaining 5 positions in this race at the moment, but then also getting hit with a 3-second penalty, probably because of it. That will come back and hurt you a little bit later, obviously, depending on the situation. You know, the fans out there want to see P3. P3 at the moment, of course, is Will, but he's about a second to change. I think where the other action, of course, is E2 at the moment. They're on the back of Jasper Ten Haken, who is our second place man in the championship, while his main competitor leading the championships way up the road in P1.
It's not like they're dropping off immensely, though. You look at some of the timesheet and the deltas, is that Emir, despite having such a strong getaway, they are not necessarily pulling a massive gap. They're currently sitting at around a second, so Jackson is doing really well to keep on their tail and still put in a good fight regardless, even with, say, the adversity of control.
Thomas making another move. Has he got another one done? Oh. Perhaps he's got Peter Locke, the Red Bull behind, and he has Antonio Contes, the Spaniard, up the road, as well as Cameron Searle and Noah battling for P7 and P8. And of course, well, the Mercs are still hanging there. Jasper Ten Haken hanging behind his teammate. Nothing changing at that place just yet. 17 of 26.
The time is starting to run out now. So we saw the pop-up just a minute ago. So 10 laps to go, and that window is going to be rapidly shrinking. Say, look on the back of Hardwick now. Isn't going to give him an easy time. Just because he took P10 doesn't mean he's out of the weeds just yet. You can see he's all very sideways almost for Luck there. Just managing to catch it and keep it under reins on that Red Bull. Very nicely done there. Could have been driving heroics. Spice things up. But they have done well to keep that car under control. Looking around the rest of the field, everyone has started to balance out, find their mojo a little bit, find their place within the field. Hardwick's going to throw a little bit of a dummy on Cortez. Isn't going to make anything of it, though, not just yet. They're biding their time, waiting for that move and that golden opportunity to get it done.
I think at the moment, they say team orders may very well be at play at Mercedes, because E2 Labalayan is starting to really claw in both of those Mercedes. Jasper seems to be a little bit closer here. Could he be held up? There has to be maybe a switcheroo here between the Mercs, because it's definitely drawing everybody out on the plane, of course, and they're allowing Will to get further and further up field here.
They can't
so
afford...
what's going to happen if we can put a camera to Toto Wolff? But we also got to keep an eye on Will now, because he's starting to really claw in AJ now. He's down to 2/10. AJ's tires could very much be on the very edge of just hanging in there. They're about 40s at the front, mate. That's the ones that took the punishment. And AJ knows he's just got to survive now to see out a couple more laps, give or take. And too bad. I can see, though, no tight. Like, just struggling to get the rear end gluing But so far, track position is still ultimately key for AJ. Will it pay off or will it not? Will right now wants to get past.
He's really, you can tell how antsy he is and how much he's seeing the time loss and the deficit to Jackson right now. Right on that tail, isn't really giving him any room to breathe. And would they say the rear swinging wild on a lot of occasions, really punishing those front rubbers. You know that eventually Casson's going to get a little impatient. They might go for a move that they might come to regret. Hopefully they have the discipline to wait and bide their time. So these drivers, they are definitely really playing on multiple levels. The strategy game, the pit stop game, as well as, of course, the driving game. But a lot to consider. Keeping it all a cool head. What matters
and the penalties
is can they bring it home.
Applying it. It's also a big problem on AJ's. Is that he got a 3-second time penalty next to his name. A bigger problem, of course, is that he has an Aston Martin right in the rear gearbox of Will Casson. And once again, no team orders at play there. And here you go. Will's going to send one around the outside. You got to make it stick here. He got better tires, of course. We saw that before from Emar. AJ's going to put up a fight of his life, but AJ at this point is inevitably going to have to realize, well, I'm more about just getting this car home rather than just burning through my tires, trying to defend. Of course, he's going to be unhappy to see a position lost there, but he's still up one position from his original starting grid P4. So if I was AJ, I'd be pretty happy with that and just try to bring this car home.
I'll say it's very nicely done.
Yeah, but I don't think Will can get anything done about Emar up the road now. As we have a retirement from Peter Locke. That's a pit lane retirement there from Peter Locke. So perhaps some damage on that car that was irreparable.
Yeah, remember, if you get damage on those side pods, or especially the underfloor, that's not something that can be swapped out. Front wing is really your only collateral you can afford, and even then, that's an extra few seconds on that pit stop you really cannot afford to do. Noel Corpi now down in P7, but looks like they're going to be making a challenge to some of the front runners. You've got now 5 cars all bunched up within a few tenths of each other here. And Searle looks to be very soon joining in the fight. Everyone's getting dished out with penalties left, right, and center for 3 seconds. That penalty chest is also going to be coming into effect. Even we don't know what the finishing order is going to look like come lap 26, but we know that it's coming soon. We're coming up to those last few laps here, final quarter of the race, and what are these drivers going to do? They know that very soon it's going to come down to this, and it's now or never.
Still no team orders at play there from McLaren. You can see Jasper just seems to be a little bit quicker. But he knows in his championship, it's not worth number 1. Never take your teammate out. And he's got to get past his teammate. His teammate's having a problem getting past AJ. So do you allow him to do the switcheroo so he can try to bring it to AJ and also minimize his deficit in this championship? Because if he doesn't, as a Haas driver of called 2 Lapalainen, he's going to do something about that, because E2 was gained 5 positions in this race. Is probably one, apart from Thomas, that's up in P9 there, gaining 7. They're the big gainers. And Noah's now putting pressure on the back of E2 for P6 and P7. It's spicing up, it's heating up, definitely. And somebody get on the radio and tell Emar Durkovic that there is a race behind him, but he doesn't have to worry about that right now. 2.7 second lead over Will.
Oh, it looks like we had a brief local yellow there. Looks like our Searle having a bit of an issue. Not sure what's going on with them, but
out of entry, I think he's either had a spin or a bit of contact with some of the drivers, and now it's really getting close. Look at the Haas there. Look at the Jasper just behind the Haas of Noah. The other Aston Martin there is really loving the cheer squad here. There's green flares in the air of Silverstone. No, you can't see them. There is a whole sea of green here.
Yeah, say, look, just ahead and say that all of those cars bunched up together. This is the final point where they can start to get some moves done. And say, sticking on board with the Corpi as they continue to put the pressure on that Haas to say, well, most maybe conflicting feelings, because at one point they were in a Haas car. Say the Mercedes going side by side as well, just ahead. Is that a position trade, or is that just both of them running side by side to block the track? I don't know.
Interesting. I have to ask Toto Wolff about that one.
But either way,
but anyway, Noah Yukalopi, if he's pumping up, I'm really gonna butcher his name, unfortunately. That driver in P7, the Aston Martin, he DNF'd the last time he reserved, so DNFing this time around.
So pushing, giving it all their might.
Don't do it to me.
Might. Either way, say E2 right now, he's going to be going down deep on the inside. He's going to be touching the side of Debrinka. They're really going to come together. They're going to lock side pods and tires. They're going to slow themselves right down. And just like that, that gap between themselves and the rest of the field is going to grow massively. Lapalainen probably got damage from that.
And Thomas is in the background as well. Look at this. It's a four-way battle. Only a little bit of the Yaris management at your disposal. Tyres, of course, are starting to get to the end of their life. Somehow AJ's making that work. But this battle, of course, from the Aston Martin and the Haas. I think they know he might have it here. So difficult to overtake around here. There was a little bit of bumping and grinding. Now Thomas could be getting momentum there on Anita. Lapalainen. This is some fantastic racing wheel to wheel. We expect to see this all season long. We have seen it all season long here at SwiftX. And we've seen 6 times on round 6. What do you think, Ben?
We've got to make it interesting for us all watching at home. I say right now, Hardwick continuing to keep that pressure on. They know what's at stake here. Those vital points in the championship are going to be all of the difference. So a lot of driver moves to potentially be made, not to mention, if all things, it may be simply more the say of pride. They know they can play it safe, get some needed points, but they could also push for more. And that's really
and Jasper's pushing
what you
right
want.
now in a battle with AJ. Sorry to cut you off on that one. And those penalties are starting to come in thick and fast. We'll get the calculator out in a minute. I'll kind of give you an idea of how many they have each, but AJ's really putting the pressure in. But AJ only has to keep up this for another 3 laps. I even see lightning in the skies in the background. But track's not getting any really heavier. Just feels like that when you're on old tires that AJ's on, which are about, give or take, 50s now. Anywhere between 53 to 54 front tires. Can he hold off for another 3 more laps?
Yeah, I think that he can just about keep it going. So he's got the track position, and track position in the wet is key. He's over 50% now on those fronts, so they're going to start to feel that drop-off. He's going to start understeering a fair bit more, I think. But is it going to be enough of a deficit to constitute an overtake? I don't think it is. Because on the straights, of course, you still have that raw pace at your disposal. And that's where the moves are going to get done. So if he plays defensively, he plays his cards.
Alfa Romeo there of Noah. Still putting the pressure on the back of the Mercedes. And that Mercedes switch been a little bit too late, do you think? Because Jasper's on the back of AJ, but once again, he can't do anything about it. He's been on the back of his teammate. His teammate, Luke DeBrinke, has to try to do something about it. And Thomas has got something done, I believe, about E2. Yes, he has. So Thomas up at a P7 now. 9 positions gained after his grid penalty. What a drive to survive coming back right now and doing it in wet conditions. Jasper still, is he going to do anything about AJ? Can Noah do anything about the other Mercedes? That's the battle for P3, 4, 5, and 6 at the moment.
They are just like trying to give it the order. Yeah, that team orders didn't really come fast enough. Those two were starting to reach parity on their best laps, but lap for lap is about 0.2 of a difference. So really, just not making that call soon enough. Got Ilakorpi side by side around just behind the P4 driver. It's going to be a drag race down the straight. There's going to be holding the outside line is Ilakorpi. They're going to bump tires, maybe lock in a little side pods. Not happening again this time. They're going to have the run, but we have Timbrika holding the inside. Are they going to make anything with it? He hasn't got it. He's got it.
And listen to the British crowd cheer for the Alfa Aston Martin. Oh, you can't hear it as much as we can outside our casting box at the moment, but I guarantee you the 50,000 British are very, very happy to see that Alfa Romeo at the moment in P5. Sorry, the Alfa Romeo, Aston Martin, of course, and the other one just holding on in P2 of Will. So what a great day for the team if they can keep this up for a couple more laps. It would be a great day, of course, for the Williams team, the other British team down the road there, if they can hold off the Merc of Jasper ten Haken. But not quite sure how long he can do it right now. Jasper said a little bit of a, hey, I'm here, AJ. AJ says, I'm well aware of it, but I don't think AJ can make it stick now. They are going to fight. What can the Merc do of Jasper?
So they're going to be side by side, coming around club. But it's going to be Ten Haken taking the P3 position with just a lap and a half, roughly, to go.
Yes, but AJ still wants it back. But AJ's got to try to use this as much as the little bit of a draft that he can. Oh, little bit of a lockup. AJ might be under a bit of pressure there right now from the other British team. So they definitely do not look anywhere. We didn't know Emo at the moment that's leading this race. Will's up the road, so no problems between them. This is where the action's at right now. The battle for the final podium position.
They're giving it absolutely everything they have, but say AJ managing to quickly regain control of that Williams, but is it going to be enough? Obviously, they just need to hold that little bit more. Ilacorpi is right on their tail right now. It's just a couple of tenths in it. Doesn't look like they have the same level of speed, or say, in fact, to say a little bit more, maybe a bit under on the downforce side of things, trying to make it up on that straight. But of course, the high-speed sections in the wet, grip is everything. And grip is something combined with the tires that AJ really does not have on their side on this one. Still managing to pull a gap.
Well, I'm not quite sure if, AJ's going to hold off, but they've got penalties between them. 3 seconds at the moment. So that means that Luke Tambinki can probably steal that P4 away from him. That'll be interesting to see the gap there between AJ and running in P6. If AJ had a 3-second penalty, that's going to drop him down. That could very much look good for the other Mercedes driver. So we could have a Mercedes ending up in 3 and 4 at the end of this.
But here we go. So final lap penalty, here.
Yeah, final lap.
It's the final lap here. We're going to see any last moves from the Aston Martin. It's do or die time. It's going to keep it on the tail. They had a little bit of a wiggle coming down the start-finish straight. Manages to rein it back in, though. Is now, he's going to be going for it. This is the deciding point. Throws it down the inside. Isn't quite going to have it, though. In fact, has a little bit of squirreling coming out into the straight. He's not going to have it, despite the dive. Is going to be back down into P5. Is he really going to get another opportunity? I don't think so. He can't risk it. He knows what's at stake, just has to bring it home. But one driver who is going to be capitalizing on everything here, Hardwick, he's going to be on the tail of that Mercedes, waiting, biding his time for that mistakes. 9 positions up, brilliantly done from that Alpine there. Can he make it 10? It's the final question as we come to the final sections of the track.
I think when you go on to let him know about his penalty situation, of course, that could be decided after the race, but don't give it away from Thomas, at least trying it. There is another penalty, so ignore that, Thomas. You just still want to do it on track and let the stewards decide that one later. AJ now knows has to hold off. For the Battle of Britain, manufacturers, of course, here in the United Kingdom, between the Williams and between, of course, the Aston Martins.
But there we go.
Mercedes should be safe. Yep, this could be the final opportunity, of course, as email is going to be a chronicle line. You can call that one.
But there we go. It's not going to be enough, however. We saw in that last straight, and Amir is going to take a commanding victory. 3 seconds up on the rest of the field. That is going to be Emir Durakovic winning the British Grand Prix. Very nicely done from him just there. Everyone coming across the line now, and you can see as the order starts to file in one after the other. What a race that we saw. Hey, not the craziest in terms of races that we've had prior, but certainly one that was filled with action nonetheless. The wet weather really did pull a bit of a curveball, I think.
I told you, it's Thomas Hardwick got the driver of the day. To me, it might very well be, I don't know, E2 Apalainen, because E2 started in P11 and finished in P5, and I am aware that Thomas Hardwick has got a lot of penalties. But, well, obviously we're not aware of a man that's wearing yellow in an Italian team is always on top. He said to everybody, this is going to be his track to own. He's proven it as he holds the trophy up and gets it done. However, there's one thing that was stolen away for Emo, and I know that it'll even disappoint him, is the fastest lap went to the Will. So that other man that's on the top step with him, spraying the champagne ammo over him right now, Mr. Will Carson, has denied him the trifecta in Silverstone.
So we're just waiting for it to come through here, and then say there we go. So as strides onto the podium there, a little bit delayed, but
oh yeah, you're
maybe drivers taking a much needed cool down, I imagine, at least on my side of things. But there we go. They have given it their absolute all in adverse conditions, no less, having all of their sessions in qualifying as well as I imagine practice, only to be thrown with an inter-race the whole way through. But Jackson, despite everything, he ran a zero stopper, didn't he? He was the only driver on track to run a zero stopper and made it work. It wasn't necessarily top stepper, but it was still a brilliant and commanding drive. and it was enough for some serious points on the board for Williams there.
It was well worth it because remember after that early spin, after his qualifying performance, he dropped all the way back down, I believe, around P10 material or something. And we know how notoriously difficult it was to overtake on this track. So he's elected with the team. You know what? I'll stay out and I'll see if I make these tyres work towards the end. And they did. Plus a few places for penalties. Of course, all that will be negotiable and talking all about that with the stewards. But for now, settles for a P6 from a P4 when he was down in P10. I'll take that one any day of the week.
Yeah, it was very nicely done from them. But so hopefully we get a chance to talk to a few of them, because I'm sure they definitely have some stories to tell. So they'll change up in weather, the changes up that we saw in the race, the safety car, big decider, and I think a lot of what went down on track today. How much do you think of a part that they played there, Dean?
A safety car part to play, or just a play?
Yeah, the safety car. Safety cars, they of course are coming out.
I mean, it's quite interesting considering the first lap amount of action that we had. That everybody kept it clean, only just a slight little contact, and only one driver, I believe, from those first few laps that actually went in for a front wing change. And then these conditions, how tricky it is, cold tires. First time, of course, they've been racing in those tires all weekend because they've only had perfect dry conditions for the qualifying. And of course, I have to imagine that most people have this with intermediate tires in Silverstone because there's certain tracks that you always practice. Okay, granted, maybe Jeddah, maybe Bahrain, you don't practice very often in wet tires, but you certainly do around Silverstone, and that proves to see where it pays off for certain drivers.
Yeah, and I think it's a little bit of, we've said this before, when the conditions change, it's just acclimatization. Drivers get themselves very set into a driving style, whether that's oversteer oriented, understeer oriented. And the same goes for if you're driving in the wet versus the dry. You approach it differently. No matter what you say or what you do approach it differently depending on what grip is available. It's just as we react to the situation. I think a lot of drivers couldn't necessarily extract maximum pace out of that purely because they acclimatized themselves in quali and in practice to dry, and then come race, it was all wet.
Well, I think it's time, no doubt, to ask them, the drivers themselves, about how it was while we are dry and cool and calm up in the casting box. Let's bring some of the drivers in to have a chat, and of course we're gonna speak to the man leading the championship. We're gonna speak to Jasper, second in the championship, Jasper Ten Haken, and of course we have to talk to Will Cassian. So who would you like to drag in, my friend, to have a chat?
Well, let's have a talk today. Of course, there's one person we have to talk to. This is the part where we say we are supposed to feign surprise, but you were oozing confidence all the way through. So really, I'd have no suspense in saying this, but to say brilliantly done, another great drive. I was going to ask, did you expect to win today? But we all know the answer to that one.
I expected to win today.
Thank you.
Yes.
You have fulfilled
I think
an
we got that
obligation
one,
for
my
me.
friend. But you missed out on the trifecta. Sorry to cut you off, Ben. You missed the trifecta. Didn't get the fastest lap. Was stolen away with the Aston Martin.
He caught me off guard. I got purple. The track was very fast at the end, and I was just trying to keep it on track, not to take too many risks. And he had the balls to do it, and he was faster at the last lap. So, congrats to Will for 17 points today.
Kind of reminds me of that interview back in the day, isn't it, with James Hunt when the interviewer was asking him, was like, so why do you think you're so fast out on the track? And he's like, sorry, Ben, go ahead with the interviews to of course, Mr. What's his name again? Of course, we call him from now on.
Yeah, like we love it. Say you figure it out as you go along, mate. But in terms of how you felt on track, of course, the safety car that came out, did that play into your hands, or was that more a curveball that you had to react to?
I wasn't sure for my strategy. I didn't know if I could stick it to the end. AJ stuck it to the end. He had really good time management today. I don't think I would have done it if I tried to, but the safety car helped me make a choice to pit. And I'm glad I did it, because I would probably have tried to stay out for the rest of the race if the safety car didn't come, and I don't think it will have ended as I wanted it to.
And just an update on the AJ situation, okay? Because you've got to give this man a little bit more credit than anything.
100%.
He's an absolute pain right now. He's got a wisdom tooth. We've all been through the wisdom tooth situation, right? Before, if you haven't yet, looking forward to it. Yeah. So under that immense pressure. I remember actually chatting to him last night, and he was in pain. He was like, Biggles, I can't talk. I did. Right. Yeah. So he's done this in these difficult conditions with tooth pain through the roof. So you'd have to give him hats off to AJ for that.
I really respected his drive today. I was even thinking what a drive he had today. I even told him I expected him a P3 top 3 today, but he got unlucky with the penalties he got, and I still think he was one of the best drivers on track today.
Yes, I got to give credence to him.
Wasn't quicker than you. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, but he had the guts to stay out for the entire race. I wouldn't have dared that with that safety car.
He doesn't even want to talk to us, mate, right now, because I asked him. He's like, I can't talk because my mouth is like, can't
I hope it gets well.
Yeah, of course, you always do. So, congratulations, my friend. Any words to your fans or anything like that before we let you go and drag in the 2 other people that are going to bring it to you in the championship?
Well, I'm not sure anyone is a fan of me. I don't think anyone likes me, so I don't have anything to say.
A Ferrari winning in Silverstone. Yeah. Sneak out the back gate, mate, before anybody notices.
Exactly.
There you go. So very nicely done, mate. So take a well-earned rest, as I know a lot of the other drivers are, and you can rest assured. Say another win on the boards. Your confidence heading into next race, before, of course, say coming to the end of Split 2 here. How are you feeling about that one, of course?
I love Monaco. I love it. It's another one of my best tracks. It's not as good as Silverstone, but it's definitely up there. I can't wait. Interesting.
Say Monaco being, of course, one of the most polarizing on the calendar. It's interesting that you like both sides of the coin. Say much faster flowing Silverstone compared to, say, also very almost say.
Come on, say it, Ben. Glorified go-kart track. Just say it.
Hey, look, you said it for me. I don't need to say a thing. But
hey, well, real quick there too, Emar. That Liam said he's the man. He's the man. Liam Markham says he's the Monaco man. So it's going to be up to you two guys to decide who's going to win that one.
He is fast at Monaco. I've seen his track guides. It really helped me as well to get faster. But he is also the man of bottling his races. But honestly, I haven't seen him race in Monaco before. I've only seen his track guide, so I think he's gonna be up there with the top pack in Monaco. I don't think he's gonna battle it this time. I believe he's gonna get a really good result in. I hope a podium for him.
So who's gonna be pouring the champagne over who?
If me and Liam are on the podium together, I'm definitely taking all my champagne out on him.
You heard it live. Ben, there you go. Let that man go celebrate.
Sharing the love and sharing the bubbles in that case. But we're going to let you go, mate. Another great, well-deserved win. Great drive out there today. Looking forward to see what you pull out the bag in Monaco.
Yeah, thank you.
Glorified go-kart track. Who's next?
I was letting you say
I'm
it.
a Monaco fan, aren't you? Anyway.
But anyway, heading down the field a little bit, we got another driver we'd love to talk to, of course. Jesper ten Hagen. How are you feeling about today's performance, mate?
I think for the first time this season, I'm not really too happy with my performance. I think I had the pace for P2, and then to end P3, I think it's quite disappointing. Yeah.
Well, Jesper ten Hagen, there was a bit of a debate out there as to what was going on with the Mercedes strategy, because it looked to me like you were a bit faster. Of course, it's one thing to catch a car, it's another thing to overtake. But that's a question, because Will eventually got past AJ, and you guys got held up by AJ, and had that, do you think, thrown away your opportunity of stealing that P2 from Will Casson?
The biggest difference has been made already before the safety car, because he boxed like lap 9, and that caught us off guard quite a bit. I think everyone expected, at least me and my teammate expected him to go a bit longer. Then we followed him the next lap with Luke to like cover off the undercut as much as possible. Then already he got the jump, and then the safety car came out. So I was like, oh, maybe I'll jump both of them. But I think there was some kind of problem with the safety car, and I still ended up behind. And then, you know that no one else will box again. If they don't have damage, they just can't go to the end. And yeah, overtaking is so difficult in the rain. So when we ended up behind, it was, we knew it was going to be a tough one. Yeah.
Yeah, because you really don't have. So you really don't have half the gubbins or half the grip that you need to get the move done. But one thing is we were debating, just to follow on from that previous question, is and being honest here, I know it's a little bit of a hush-hush topic, but was there ever a thought in your mind that maybe, say, a team order should have been called in? Say you had the pace for those higher positions, but we also saw you and your teammates sharing a lot of track space. Do you feel that, say, ever got in your way or interrupted what otherwise would have been, say, a solid charge?
Well, I think we're not really a fan of team orders. You know, we race our own races, and I know I'm P2 in the standings, but like I've said many weeks before, I'm more looking behind than I'm looking ahead. I mean, Emir is so far gone, so I'm looking to P3, and I think I've got quite a healthy lead to P3, like quite a lot of points. And my teammate, is still a bit down the order, has been unlucky, missed a few races, so I think it's important for him to get points as well. So no, I don't think team orders would have been justified, really.
By the way, honourable response there.
It was, but yeah, it's my question on that one too, Ben. So it was great. So yeah, but Toto Wolff, of course, in the debriefing, drivers debriefing room, might be like, when you're on the immediate air, you always say you're going to potentially win the championship. You never say you can't. It's fine, even if it's real or not. But yes, but you certainly put in a great. And today, obviously, the big thing you said that you were more guarded about was your qualifying performance, right? P5.
Yeah, it's a shame. I really need to start finding a fix for the qualifying, because I know I have the pace. I could have gone, not P1 of course, but P2 was like very close, very possible. I had the pace, but then in the last one of Q3, it just doesn't really click, or something happens, like a few races already. This is now again. I really have to try and get on top of that, because that sets you on the back foot, and especially when it appears to be raining, you need to have the track position. And I think it's in there, but yeah, I need to find it in the last run of Q3. That's something we need to work on, I think.
So you still made the best. You still made the best of the situation regardless. It was still a great performance by yourself, and there's one that you can sort of be proud. One that you can take home, because at the end of the day, it was a lot of points in terms of the team, a lot of points in terms of yourself and your teammate. So you can still walk away pretty happy with what you got.
Yeah, I think in the constructors, it's a much more of a serious fight we can put up to Ferrari, and I think we outscored them again today. So I think that's, or at least it's very close, and we're still leading in the constructors. So that's a fight we want to win. So I think that's on that front, it's been a good day all around, I think.
It has. And yes, but one last question. I mean, let's just roll back and say a different scenario situation, of course. So let's say you did qualify P2. Let's say you're battling it out with Email. And, even if you're in P2, maybe you can get past him in P1, but you still be battling up there, right? Still putting the pace in that you can show. And let's say did the undercut of undercuts exactly what Will Carson did, and we'll talk to him in just a second, and that time that safety car perfect, and let's say AJ still stayed out, and let's say you had a gap between perhaps came out ahead of Email, AJ's behind, that would have probably changed that situation time, and you could have pretty much won that race, because Email had to get AJ, which took some time as well. He had to do. That could have given you a little bit more of a gap, but that's always a what ifs, right? But you can see how the situation with down there and the pit crew and strategy could change that and still get you a win.
Of course, when the opportunity is there and I end up ahead of Emir somehow, or I'm in a position to fight him, of course I will. I mean, I want to win if there's an opportunity. So I think today I ruined it for myself a bit by qualifying so far down. And usually I think I have very good starts. So if I'm P2, I think I can challenge him on quite a few tracks in turn 1, maybe the first few laps. And
all right.
Yeah, of course
so
I'll try.
Let's go do it again right now. We're going to do a restart. Let's give it a shot. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, you said it yourself. Your qualifying performance is something you need to improve on, and I bet you will definitely do that in this championship. Congratulations anyway. It's still results, and you're still definitely P2 in the championship.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you, guys.
No, very nicely done, Zogi. There we go. So
we
that
have to bring in
we have
Aston
one more.
Martin. Yeah.
One more to talk to. And of course, as a standout performer, really found their mojo. But let's have a quick chat with them now. Will Casson, one of the drivers of the hour.
How are we?
We're doing great. How are you? So how are you feeling about that performance you put on there today?
Yeah, good. I'm hot. I'm sweaty. That's all that matters.
The cockpits.
Didn't the champagne cool you down?
A bit warm, lukewarm. I don't know if the fridge broke.
Is that lukewarm as in the reference to the Luke that was out there in the chat? But anyway.
I wish I was that clever. Maybe not.
Could have played it off
Benjamin?
as say
Well,
lukewarm, call it Franklin. But
Yeah,
one of
exactly.
the things I wanted to say focus on, strategy-wise, what was the thought process behind the strategy today? Because of course, you had the safety car bringing a big shake-up, but it looks like you played off the conditions of the race pretty well, if not near to perfection there.
Yeah, so I probably spent the first sort of 8 or 9 laps in between the two Mercs. I felt like I was quicker than, I think it was Luke that was in front of me. So I went for a really, really big undercut in lap 9, I think I pitted. And then came out just in front of him. Everyone else stayed out, and then the safety car came out, which was obviously completely through out the window. To be honest, I think the delta was bugged, because my delta started at plus 5 seconds or something awful. So I could literally go flat out, and luckily didn't get like caught up by people pitting under safety car. So I think that saved my race. And then obviously overtaking, I think it was AJ that stayed out, really, really helped. That meant I could build a gap to the Mercs behind and then just sort of cruise to P2 really, because I was never going to catch him here. He's in another league in his own.
You get the fastest lap, so granted on that one, you stole that one away from him. But go back to that situation before the safety car, because I think Ben and I were kind of up to you going, oh, do you know something we don't know? Because it was Maximum Kloss, I believe, that lost it out of Stowe, okay?
Yeah.
And there was only a local yellow. Obviously, the FIA were deciding whether or not they deemed it's going to be safe to call safety car. Was that? And then right at that moment, you jumped in the pit lane. I think Ben and I are going, is this too early? What does he know? What's going on? What happened there?
So I planned to pit. So during that lap, I planned to go in anyway to go for the undercut, because I thought, like, I've got to do something. I'm not going to be able to overtake just under normal racing conditions. Literally, as I pull into the pit, I think he spun in. What was it? Stowe, you said.
Stowe,
yeah.
Stowe, out of
So
Stowe.
there were many choice words as I was trundling along at 37 miles an hour. Yeah, there you go. One of those. Yeah, because I was thinking that's no way that I've literally pitted. Then that didn't come out, but then 2 laps later, I think Liam binned it into a wall, which is just standard practice from him. So that brought out the safety car.
Yeah, you don't try talking about that in my Monte Carlo, but yeah, go ahead.
So yeah, that sort of threw it all up in the air a bit, but yeah, it kind of worked out, I guess. Having the dodgy delta, which helped.
You imagine if the safety car did get called at that point? I mean, you had probably one of the best strategies in this race tonight, and you'd imagine if that safety car was called at that point, that would be like, it's a win-win.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's one of those where I think especially for maybe like Amir and Jasper who'd already gone through, I think they probably would have got an undercut on me, because they would have pitted like throughout the whole safety car duration, but the rest of the field would have been fine. Yeah, I think I was lucky with the safety car, but I don't think I had the pace to earn P2.
You called that you jumped the Mercs. Was the
Yes,
key.
yeah, and the big overtake on AJ.
Yeah. That was bold and brave too. That must have been sweaty, mate, because you were well aware, of course, that AJ did not box and was on the older tires, and you had a little bit of traction. Obviously, you went around the outside.
Yeah,
and,
so
yeah,
I was terrified. Absolutely terrified.
We were terrified watching, weren't we, Ben?
Yeah, but you did really play that perfectly.
Yeah, I was so scared he was going to understeer into me, and then I was equally scared that I was going to oversteer on exit and just completely wipe us both out. So yeah, I'm glad it worked out. And then I think he backed off going into the final chicane and let me go ahead, which I was very thankful for, because I thought he was going to send it around the outside.
He's bold and brave, my friend, but he's got tooth pain, and he doesn't want that much pain on top of it. So I think he realized at that point, there's only so much defending you're going to do as a race driver with those tires. Remember, he still had 6 or so laps to go on them, so he's going to be thinking more of the end game than just that lap.
Yeah,
certainly we had the fan club at that too, my friend, as long as, well, barely Ben and I could hear anything with all those British fans just screaming for the Aston Martin to try to get it done, and you did.
Yeah. No, it was very good. Yeah, glad to be on the podium again and not bottle another race.
Yeah, really seen that great return to form. And say, I've been rooting for you. I have been rooting for you in my little box, in my little corner of the commentary station. And lo and behold, Will Casson is back. The Will Casson that we know and love is back. It's good to see you on the podium. I guess, how are you feeling about keeping that momentum heading into Monaco for the end of Split 2?
Not confident with Monaco, if I'm honest. Like, I don't really do a lot of practice in the week. Monaco is somewhere where if you don't do practice, you will be found out. So watch out for a green car in a wall and a safety car being called by lap 3 on Monaco. That'll be me.
Well, that being said,
We could send the divers out, can we, Ben? If you get it into the bay.
Yeah,
hopefully not.
We got to say, stewards are equipped with diving gear as a secondary uniform they can jump into. In fact, to say with the world record we've seen, it's all prepared kit, say 12.2 seconds, and they're already in the water. But hopefully, shouldn't come to that. Shouldn't need it at all. But regardless, a great performance out there today. Monaco is a very polarizing track, so some love it, some hate it, some just want to get it over with. But it's still good to see you back up on top, and hopefully we do see you back on that top once more.
Amazing. Thank you, lads.
Yeah, well, congratulations. Second P3 start in a row, and you've converted that P3 start into a P2 position. Exactly, and forward to Monaco on that one. Ben, what a race it's been, mate. Great Britain, bit of rain, bit of spice, bit of action. SwiftX always produces.
Amen. And on that lovely front, let's talk a little bit about the calendar. So there is
surprise. All right, drum roll.
This is the surprise that we have been waiting for. So now, I know that there are plenty of sports fans in the room, and that doesn't just go for typical sports fans of, say, just F1. We have also got plenty of sports fans in regards to different disciplines. And out of respect, we have made a tactical decision. So looking at the calendar, you will see that there is one difference. We have moved forward the finale of the races by 1 week. So we now have got Abu Dhabi coming in a week earlier. 7th of December is going to be your finale. And we have, of course, a big shake-up and as a result to boot. So remember, one less round, one less chance for points, which means these championship races have suddenly got a lot more intense, a lot more impactful for these drivers. They don't have the same wiggle room that they once had.
Ben, can I put a little thing to the calendar? Can we switch 15 to 16, have Brazil last? Because I want that. It's that Glock. Brazil. It's always been usually the final of the calendar. Of course, I'm not going to make any of those decisions here at the fantastic team at Swift series. But I mean, I'm just so used to that classic Brazil ending it before they didn't have all the oil money to buy their way into the final round. Like Abu Dhabi is a great track, of course, but Brazil, oh wow, thing produces. But still. And by the way, just on that note, you know, Timo Glock with Massa, 10 years he did not talk about that directly to Massa, and I believe it was only just in the last couple of weeks he actually did speak to him about that. Can you believe that?
You know what? I actually
coined
can.
him. People have coined him as deliberately doing that, of course. And Timo Glock's going, "Are you kidding me? I was trying to get that car on the track. I'm planning about helping out somebody win a championship." But anyway, that was just my thing. But it's still going to be exciting, as you mentioned, isn't it?
Yeah,
Abu Dhabi, Brazil, Mexico, United States in that final split four.
Yeah, we've got a absolutely stacked final split. So of course we got Miami, the Mexico circuit as they Interlagos, as they not quite being the round topper, but still getting its due as the second to last race on the calendar. So we can somewhat recreate that original feel. And then of course Abu Dhabi being a staple finisher of the championship, and the same is here. It's no different here at SwiftX. But for now, we are going to get some much needed rest ahead of preparing ourselves for the beautiful streets, marinas, sun and skies of Monaco. I'm certainly excited. Hope you are, Dean, as well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm not a Monaco fan. Could have been better if you had Singapore, but I'm not going to make those decisions. Keep an eye on Split 3 as well too, mate. The powerhouse of powerhouses. Belgium, Monza, Spain, and Imola. Wow, that's speed. But for now, we have to worry about Monaco, don't we? And for now, Ben, yeah, we need to worry about having a laydown.
And laydown, we will do just that. But it's been brilliant. You've all been amazing. Of course, all the drivers put in their absolute all as we're coming to this turning point, the halfway point of the championship here next week. Monaco, streets of Monte Carlo, beautiful place. Hopefully, we should see some beautiful examples of driving as well. But we've been SwiftX. I've been Ben Sapsford. We've been here with Dean Biggles, of course, lovely caster himself, dedicating a lot of this time to his project. And we will see you in due time in a week for Monaco. Keep it Swift.